Put on your mental track shoes and run with me. This is the Powwow with Myra. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today we have George Vasquez with owner and operator and coach of Vasquez Jiu-Jitsu. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to kind of dive into your journey in jiu-jitsu and how you got started. But I guess first you can, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and.
Yeah, definitely. So, just a quick background. I mean, I was born in Laredo, Texas. That's down south in the border. I moved to the Metroplex when I was 10. Um, Played sports all my life since I was little: soccer, football, baseball, track. Um, and then I found jujitsu right after high school, um, at 18 years old. And I just happened to live 8 minutes from Coach Alvarez, Alvarez Jiu-Jitsu. I used to drive to the YMCA that's right down the street,
Mm,
and I would see a sign, Jiu-Jitsu. I felt like I heard about it before, but I really wasn't sure what it is. Watched MMA, but I wasn't really up to date with the whole Gracies and all that. I just knew MMA. So, anyways, I drive by. I liked working out. I kind of towards high school, like my junior year, I really stopped playing sports and really wasn't doing much. So after I graduated, I was just working out and I would see the sign. And then I also would hang out and party sometimes with a friend that trained at Alvarez. He would wear the shirts.
mm,
And so I'm like, hey, do you train there? He's like, yeah, man, it's really fun. Like, you should try it out one day. Like, come by. So, the seed was planted.
mm,
And finally, what really pushed me was I used to work at Office Max over off Cooper Street. And I saw Alvarez Sr. there one day with the shirt on. And so I approached him. I was like, hey, do you work there? Like, I'm interested in trying. He's like, yeah, come on by. We have a 30-day free trial. Stop by. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds like a good deal. So I Googled it before I went or YouTubed it. And I was like, this looks kind of funny. I don't know if I'll like it, but I already told him I'm gonna go, so I'll try it out. It was the video I remember. I don't know where or who it was, but it was some guys rolling on like puzzle mats outdoors somewhere, and they
mm.
were flow rolling, so it wasn't a competitive roll. So I think that's why it looked kind of funny to me at the time. But I was like, it's worth a shot. And so I went in July of 2012, and I walk in, I see all the medals. Back then, he was in like a more of a warehouse style gym. He had a bunch of banners and pictures of everybody. I was like, whoa, a little intimidated. I was like, this is cool. And man, we got started. We started training, and um, I don't even remember the technique, but I just remember getting to the rounds, and he paired me with some a teenager. He was like 13. And I mean, I'm not a big guy, but I worked out and I was like, yeah, I could take on a 13-year-old, no big deal. Well, yeah, that wasn't the case. He tapped me out, he triangle choked me like 2, 3 times in a round. And I was just like, what is this? Like, what's going on? I don't know. Like, I'm trying to throw his legs by. I remember and I think he just caught me in a triangle over and over. And I just got rolled up the whole training session. And I was like, "Whoa, I don't know what happened." So I went home. I think I had an adrenaline dump, and my knees were all scraped. And I was sitting on the couch, and I run out to the backyard. I felt like I was gonna puke,
Cute. Oh.
and I did. I was like, "Ugh," And so my mom's like, "Don't go back. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, I don't." She doesn't want to see me beat up like that.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know what it was, but I gotta go back. Like, I was just like in awe of this teenager tapping me out so effortlessly. And I never been tapped out. I'd never really seen a submission, I feel like. I'd watch UFC and I just watched it for the punching. I
Hmm.
didn't really understand the submissions.
The
Yeah,
technicality.
exactly. Like, I probably saw it, but it didn't register. And so I was like, I don't know what that is, but I got to go back. So I just kept going back. I just finished within a week. They had a good offer. Our senior was like, "Hey, you join, you get your free gi." I was like, "Okay, sounds like a deal." And at the time, like I said, I worked at Office Max, wasn't making a lot of money, so my mom was like, "I'll help you out." I was like, "Okay, cool. All right, mom." So without my
Oh,
mom, I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
wow.
And yeah, I kept training and kind of I like to say I've never taken any time off because I haven't, but there was a point at the very beginning, maybe 2 months in, I couldn't afford jujitsu. She helped me initially, and there was a point I just couldn't keep the payments up alone. So I took like a month off, and then again, my mom's like, you know what? I'll I'll help you out. Few months, 6 months, whatever you need
Wow.
to get on your feet. So I was like, okay. So I think I went a month without training, and then haven't looked back since. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. What about like any injuries that have caused you to pause your
mm,
training for extended period of time?
I've had out minor injuries. I would say the most serious injury, but it didn't put me out too long, was a back injury and like dislocated fingers. So a week, 2 weeks,
Okay, yeah,
but
no,
nothing
nothing.
more than a month.
Okay.
So
Had you done any sort of like martial arts before finding jujitsu or even wrestling experience?
no, and yes. So I when I was maybe 5 or 6, I think I took karate or taekwondo, but
Okay.
I I
Yeah.
white belt, trained a little bit, didn't stick to it. When I was 16, my friend was like, "Hey, there's a MMA gym. It's over in Mansfield off of, I believe, Broad." It was inside of a gym, and I really don't even remember the gentleman's name. I just remember we came in. He's like, I think he showed us some single legs, and I was like, "This is funny." Like I'm grabbing my friend's leg. I was like, "I don't like this." I had other things going on at the time, so that was that one class. But
Mm.
besides that, no other grappling experience or martial art experience or wrestling experience at that. I went to Mansfield ISD, so they didn't even offer that at the time. I kind of wish they did,
Yeah.
but it's okay. I
Yeah.
found jujitsu.
For sure, for sure. So you're driving back and forth and you see the sign and so you don't really understand like jujitsu, you just know it's somewhat in correlation with MMA fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And so that alone kind of had your attention.
Mm-hmm.
And so where do you think that comes from with not having really any like much martial arts or even, much wrestling? Like,
There was one instance where um I pulled up to my girlfriend's house. I was 17 maybe at the time, and there was some guys outside. I hit a curb. They said something to me. I said something back. I could have just walked inside. It ended up into a little confrontation, altercation thing where it ended up I basically ended up mounted, just hugging the guy,
mm,
just holding on. And I was like, okay, if I let go, he's gonna punch me.
yeah,
And then luckily my girlfriend ran out. Hey, what are you guys doing? And really nobody got hit, but I was just like, wow, I don't like that feeling of I was mounted and I really had no idea. If I were to let go, he was gonna punch me.
right. The
And
fear of not
yeah,
knowing.
the fear of not knowing, like I was like, I could tussle, I guess, right? I mean, maybe I can. I don't know, but that instance, I was like, wow, I have no idea how to take care of myself on the ground. I was
Mm,
just holding on.
yeah,
That's all I knew. And luckily he didn't know any grappling, so we
right.
were just in a stalemate, but it would replay in my mind, oh man, that could have been
It
bad.
bugged
It
you.
bugged me a lot, a lot.
Mm,
And so, I sat with that. That was maybe a few months prior to trying jujitsu, but I would drive by and I was like, okay, because I would replay that moment, kind of you just randomly in a story, you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have. I don't know. I hate that feeling of not knowing what could have happened. So with that combined with talking to my friend and um, meeting Mr. Albert Senior, I was like, you know what, I'm going for it.
It was like it was bound to happen.
Hmm.
All of these things just
All the signs led
all this
to
yes.
to jujitsu, and
Right. And so when, it sounds like, you were thinking about it for a while. So for the individuals out there that maybe, especially nowadays that jiu-jitsu is much more popular
mhm.
and you have people that ask questions but maybe just don't even want to go do the trials, right? So when you think about yourself in that position back in 2012
Mhm.
about and you were driving by, what kept you from actually going in?
I think I just had no idea what jujitsu was, and it was because it was the fear of unknown, right? That's a big thing that people deal with. I was like, I don't, I'm not a MMA. I had done a little bit of boxing, so I kind of I'll backtrack. I
Mhm.
did boxing when I was 16. I did a few classes. I liked it. I sparred once or twice, and I was like, I don't really like getting punched. Like,
Oh, so you would actually get punched?
yeah, yeah. I did like
Or
two.
is it the ones where you wear the masks or not even?
We would
Like
wear
the
headgear.
helmets? Okay.
And so we did some sparring sessions just in the gym against teammates, but they were live rounds, like
Okay.
not to not till we KO'd each other. I mean, we were teenagers, but just
Yeah.
work on your technique, punch each other.
Right.
Not, I mean, live, but I was just like, I don't want to get punched. I don't like this. I mean, I enjoy watching boxing, but I have no aspirations for MMA, getting punched. Not for me.
Definitely, I'm with you on that.
And so that was like, okay, I had done the boxing thing, and like I said, I would drive by and I was like, I don't know. And really talking to my friend, he was when he said it's fun, I was like, okay, like what's it like? He's like, it's like wrestling, but you could, choke each other. That's the word he used. And I was like, okay, well, that sounds cool. And it just the seed was it kept growing and growing. And then when I met Alvarez Senior, he was just a nice guy. He's like, come on, check it out. He just real inviting. I was like, all right, I'll try it. I mean, that was really it. My mom is a big person that's like, try new things, go for it. Like,
Mm.
what's the worst that can happen? Like, just go for it.
Wow.
And so I think I would ask her like, what do you think? Should I try? And she's like, just go. Just if you don't like it, don't go back. I was like,
Right.
okay, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing for people that are scared to do it. Try it, and if you don't like it, then you don't like it.
Right. So in your own words for people that still don't really understand what jujitsu is, they just kind of combined all sorts of martial arts into one big lump, right? So how would you describe what jujitsu is to the general person, individual out there that is not very familiar with the art?
Um, the two words that I like, and then I will define it, is submission grappling. So grappling is a broad term of you're grappling another human without striking. So it's the art of immobilizing your opponent to get a submission. I
Mm.
think that I've heard people describe it that way, and I like how they
Mm.
say that. So immobilizing your opponent, pinning them to the ground, or you're on their back, you're pinning them where they can't stand up, and then you're searching for a submission, or a submission could be a choke, or a joint lock.
Mhm.
So that's the best way I can describe it. Sometimes when I'm describing it to people that know wrestling, I'm like, it's like wrestling with chokes.
Mm.
If you understand what
What wrestling?
American or Olympic wrestling, high school wrestling, not the luchador stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
well, that's a I had really hadn't heard it described or being described that way, and, it makes sense. I always think about it as, like, technical, uh like wrestling,
yeah.
like a wrestling like a technical aspect of it, like there's much more to it.
A silly way to describe it is uh doing laundry with a human still inside it, or folding clothes with human still inside of the clothes. So they or what's the other one? That's the only one. It's like, yeah, you're trying to fold people up with the clothes with the person still in it,
Yeah, yeah, that makes that's
but that's just silly. That's just a silly way to
Y-
describe it. But
yeah, yeah. So okay, so then you sign up within a week. They have a good deal, and so you were already hooked by this point. I mean, from day one,
yeah, day one,
you're
day
hooked.
one.
And so, how long would you say it took you to, or let me ask you this first: did you get everything right off the bat when you joined, or did it take you some time to for things to kind of start clicking?
It definitely took time. Yeah, definitely. Like, I think I had natural ability of like stay on top, um, push the guy away from me. Like, just things kind of naturally came to me that way. But it took years to really understand the art of grappling. And actually, like now, 11 years in, I'm like, man, it wasn't as complicated as I made it out to be.
Mm.
That's how I'm feeling now. Maybe that's like, well, you've been in it so long that of course it's gonna seem simple, but um, it took me a few years. Like, okay, what is guard? How do you what are you doing with the guard? So I think I would dive too much into I need to learn a specific guard instead of what is the guard doing. I back then I was like, okay, I'm gonna learn half guard and I'm gonna master half guard, and I think it would make my journey narrow instead of learning what is behind the concept of half guard. You're
Mm.
managing distance in order to keep your opponent off of you. I mean, some people will consider, Coach Alvarez probably has said that. I think it just didn't register. I was just like, half guard. I gotta do this under,
Yeah.
certain techniques.
Yeah, but it kind of makes sense. Like once you start understanding it, then I think you start getting those other thoughts of like, okay, well, I can experiment in these other areas because I feel like I've felt the same in some situations too. I mean, of course, the level difference here it's quite the difference here from a blue belt to a black belt, which I don't think we mentioned that you
Oh, yes,
are.
yes, ma'am. Yep.
Yeah, you are a
First
black
degree black
first
belt.
degree black
Hmm.
belt. So, but I would think that I'm like, okay, I gotta get this down first, real good. But I think at first, for me, anyways, was because I wasn't like in the moment. I had to go slow. I couldn't do it fast because if I did fast, I would forget something. But then once things started clicking, I'm like, okay, well, I can I can focus on something else. I would like kind of pick something else
Hmm.
to learn that I just figured out that I'm not really good at it
Hmm.
yet. So I don't know. Do you think that's kind of how it happened for you, or did you
Yeah,
learn that further down the road?
I think another thing that I would run into was I felt overwhelmed with how many techniques there is.
Mm,
And I would want to, okay, I need to learn spider guard, lasso, and half. And then when I would go down the rabbit holes of each guard, I'm like, I would feel overwhelmed and I didn't feel like I had enough time to drill each move. And so that was, I mean, it didn't hinder me. Like, I would still progress, but I just felt overwhelmed at times that there's so much information.
I think that's definitely the case. I think especially uh, for like new practitioners,
Hmm.
like for me, it's not that long ago, and even now, I mean, of course, every day we're learning new things, but especially when you're like brand new, you're trying something out for the very first time. Everything is so foreign that it does feel overwhelming.
Hmm.
And like I said, for me, it's not that long ago. It's like 2.5 years ago. So I still remember very clearly. So even now, when we have new people coming in at the gym all the time, and they're like, I just don't know. I'm like, and it's so funny because what people would tell me when I was new Now it's like the same thing. It's like we get it. We've all been there.
And I tell my students that because I only have white belts currently, and some of them had zero experience prior to training with me. And I'm always reiterating like, hey, this is a long journey. It's not short term. Like you're in
Hmm.
it for the long haul. So just buckle up. It's gonna be all right. It's gonna be a bumpy road. You're gonna have to pull over sometimes, but just put in perspective that if you love jujitsu and you want to stick with it, it's years. It's a year. I mean, it's lifetime journey. I mean, if you
Right.
can make it a lifetime, so
Yes.
don't get overwhelmed with how much you need to learn. Just show up, train, and tackle little things at a
Little
time.
wins.
Little wins,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
And actually, so that rang a bell was how I would gauge my progress was we have a teammate, well, a old teammate. His brother actually owns a gym down in South Texas, Damian Kills, but his brother Austin Kills, they're both beasts. But I would train a lot with Austin Kills when he was a teenager. Beast. I mean, he was a world champion, juvenile
Mm.
world champion. I remember one day specifically, he tapped me out 7 times in a 7 minute, 6 minute round. I was like, oh my God, that was bad. And so every time I would roll him, I was like, I gauged it off the 7 submissions. I was like, okay, I need to just get tapped out 6 times, not 7. And
Hmm.
little by little, it became 5 times in a round, 4, 3, 2. And then the last time I ever got to roll with him, um, we it was even on points.
Mm.
And he had taken some time off, and but still it was like, wow, you just stick with it long enough and you just keep showing
Right.
up, like you will close gaps. And that to me helped me move through it, through the journey like that.
Yeah, yeah, that makes so much sense. Like those little wins are so crucial, and it's so true because a lot of times we just tend to maybe compare ourselves with sometimes like the best person in the room, right? It's not like we
Exactly.
don't compare ourselves with the mediocre, and so that may also may seem overwhelming to get to that level. But I think you just mentioned something like very important that I agree with. It's like it's about the little wins. It's about you versus you being better than yesterday every
Hmm.
day. That being the goal.
Hmm.
And so I do like how even back then you kind of had that type of mindset of I just have to do better than I did last time.
Yeah, and it helps because I would get caught up in like, oh man, I want to be a world champion. But if you look that far, you don't realize what they went through and the
Hmm.
battles they had to fight. And so I think I just to make myself, and I'm very competitive. So I'm like, okay, as long as I'm like competing against myself most of the time. And so, yeah, just, that's, yeah, a piece of advice for sure. There's like, just win the little battles. Like, if you get stuck in side control, you know, go into the training session. Like, if I get in side control, I'm going to get out within 30 seconds or a minute or something. If you don't get it, well then try again, Just, that's the cool thing about jujitsu. That is not that's why they call it the gentle art, I think. That you can it can be rough on your body, but you can train for years and just keep showing up. If you don't, get what you're looking for that training session, well then just show up the next one. And
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And speaking on like that aspect of if you don't like it, but if you do like it, especially, and you said it's a lifelong journey. Like, I agree. I feel like it's like a lifestyle, and it's like if you just kind of see it that way, and especially if you understand like the importance of staying active
mhm.
to stay healthy because I mean, it doesn't matter what you do in life, how successful or unsuccessful you are, if you don't maintain like some sort of activity, the years will show. And, you don't want to hit 50 and, the mountain's going to seem a lot bigger to drop those pounds you need to drop. Um, so, for the people that do think of, um, just staying active. I feel like jujitsu, especially, is such a life hack
Mhm.
because you kill so many birds with one stone, right? So, like, you get your physical activity in, so check. Two, you learn a life skill that could potentially save your life or save somebody else's. Check. Three, you can walk around the streets much more confident, especially even for me being in real estate and being a female and a lot of times meeting people for the first time in random places.
Mhm.
Like for me, I literally have zero fear. Doesn't matter who I'm gonna meet or how, like, zero fear, you know. And so to be able to walk around with zero fear, it's check. You know what I mean? Like it's like a tool, like a confidence thing that's like a tool that you just kind of carry around because meeting somebody new that seems weird is not going to hold me back at all. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So, so it's I tell people that all the time when we get to talk about jujitsu. It's like it's literally like a life hack. And it is fun versus going to the gym. Like I've tried things in the gym, different gyms before, and I mean, I still go to the gym. Um, the one that got closest was Orange Theory, which that one was fun because it was a
Yeah.
group training, and so just seeing the similar faces, it becomes a small community. So then it becomes fun just running on the treadmill and and doing that activity. But it's nowhere in comparison as fun as jujitsu.
No, I mean, I'm biased, but bar none, yeah, nothing beats jujitsu. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, but anyways, I went on a rant there talking about like just the lifestyle of jujitsu. It is a lifestyle that, you can spend an hour and a half, an hour, whatever it is. And that's every day it compounds. And so um I don't know. I
No,
love the fact that
yeah, I agree. I mean, I think I fell in love with jujitsu, the sport, to begin with. I knew it was a martial art, um, but the sport was really what drew me. But as the years went on and I kept training, I'm not a big guy, so I would sometimes be like, "Oh man, if something goes down, I don't know if I can handle
mm.
myself." And through all these years of training, I don't walk in a room and be like, "I can choke anybody out." I'm not, like, I don't even know the word, like,
I guess
conceit,
conceited.
or I wanna say I'm not dumb to, or but I know I'm not invincible. Okay, there's this Henzo Gracie. He's a well-known black belt. He has a saying, your your belt only covers um, uh, 3 inches of your butt, and you got to do the rest. So like just because you have a belt around your waist doesn't make you this superhero. So I know that, but I still feel if I were to be attacked or something crazy happen, I can get away, or I
Mhm.
can potentially subdue this person. So
Mhm.
that alone, I'm like, okay, I feel good. I can go in room, I can go with my wife and my daughter and be like, I can take care of them at least, or
Right.
take myself. So I can agree with how you feel too. Like everyone's bigger than me, but I'm like, I'll be okay. I think I'll be all right.
Right. Yeah.
And then also to touch on the lifestyle thing, um, jujitsu bleeds into your life. I mean, everywhere. Like, it just the mat. They say the mats um show like what show who you are and what you're doing. So
Mm.
you could talk a big game. You can say all these things about how you perform, but when you're on the mat, that's gonna really reveal what you do.
Right.
And so we're lucky to train with Coach Alvarez, that not only does he preach, but he practices what he preaches. And so I get to see firsthand what hard work and discipline in jiu-jitsu can bring. But then you start to like, oh, if I do work hard and I push myself and I step out of my comfort zone, things we do with like competing or in the training room, like if you avoid hard rounds, it's can correlate with life. You avoid
Mhm.
certain things that are going to be difficult or you're not doing the extra thing to take your if you're wanting to progress in your career, then you're not going to progress. So it's the same thing with jiu-jitsu. If you don't do those extra things, you're not going to progress. So a lot of times people are like, "Oh, I'm just not getting better." It's like, are you running or what do you do cardio? Do you lift weights? Do you eat healthy? And all those things play a part to the lifestyle, like the jiu-jitsu lifestyle.
Right. Yes. 100%. 100%. So when did you start competing at in jiu-jitsu tournaments when since you started training?
So I actually just recently organized all my medals and I was like, oh, okay. So I was able to so I started in July. My first tournament was October of 2012.
Mm.
So I went to Austin. It was fight to win. They're still around. They do super fights only now. But they at that time he ran Seth Daniels. He ran tournaments. Yeah, tournament style competitions. And I was asking the guys. I think I saw a flyer in the gym somewhere. I was like, "Hey, do you guys, what do you think? Should I?" They're like, "Yeah, it'll be cool. You'll be all right. You'll go try it out." I didn't know that we don't go as a team. I was like, everybody's gonna be in Austin. Like, it's gonna be cool. It's far. Not everyone's gonna go to Austin. Mainly, it's just here in the Metroplex. But I signed up, and then I show up. I'm like, where is everybody? Like, and there was like a few kids they're competing, and I recognized some of the guys, and they're like, all right, man, good luck. We'll see you later. I was like, oh no, So luckily, my wife was there. We were just boyfriend and girlfriend at the time, but um, yeah, luckily I got gold, and I think that helped me keep
Mm.
going because I was like, "Oh, wow, I got a gold medal, and I don't really know what I'm doing." Obviously, I knew a little bit, but
3 months in
3
about.
months in about, but
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
I remember I was playing, like, Spider Guard, and when you play Spider Guard, you have to put your feet in the biceps, and I
mm.
was, like, hanging my legs around his biceps, and I just looking back, I was like, "I" but it worked at the time, and so
Yeah, I guess were you competing against somebody the same level?
yeah, same rank
Same
and same
same
weight.
same level. Yeah,
So
okay.
probably the 141 division, 135-pound division white belt. People my age, so real even.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So you thought the whole team was gonna be there
yeah,
and
I was like, coach is gonna be here and the whole squad's gonna be here. It's gonna be awesome. But I didn't even ask. I just
you
assumed.
just assumed, right?
I signed up and just showed up. I was like, and then I think I asked a teammate. I was like too scared to ask coach, like, not where were you, but I don't know. They're like, dude, it's far. It's Austin. We kind of, we do show up here locally. I was like, oh, okay. Well, now I know.
You're like noted.
Yeah, noted exactly. So it was a good experience though.
Oh, for sure, for
Um,
sure. Well, you got first,
yeah, I
so
got first, so that's cool. I have my medal, and I was like, I gotta frame this. I have it hanging, but it's a special one for
for
me. Yeah.
sure, for sure. There's a story there
Uh huh.
too. Yeah. So then, did you continue competing like often or?
So, like, looking at my medals, I have one from 2012, so I guess I didn't compete the rest of the year, and then I have only one for 2013. I'm trying to recall why I didn't compete more, but I went to the Houston Open, IBJJF Houston Open. I got a silver, and there's a gap from there to then 2014. I really picked up the pace, and I was still a white belt at the time. I think I won gold Dallas Open, Houston Open, and I asked Coach Evers, can he hold me back to go compete at the Pan American Championships in California? Excuse me. And I had never been to California, and I would see our teammates going to California, winning Pans, Worlds, Danielle, Justin, Austin, Tristan. I was like, oh, I want to do that. And so I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna make my way out to California. And so
Mm,
I that's a good thing. That's what I love about jujitsu. It's taken me places. I
mm,
mean, without maybe I would have gone to California eventually,
right.
but jujitsu took me to California.
Yeah, it sped up probably maybe the process.
Yeah, because I mean, I really had no other reason to go, maybe to vacation, but to go compete, it was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I show up to California, never been. Fell in love with the weather, and
Mhm.
and then just seeing all the practitioners there and the just the atmosphere. I was like, oh wow, yeah.
Inspirational.
I was like, man, this is awesome. And then you know, skill and luck. I won the Pan American Championship. I was like, okay,
Mm.
I gotta do this. This is my thing. Like,
Okay.
I'm gonna pursue this. I'm gonna go hard. And yeah, I never stopped since. I mean,
Yeah.
I've had a lot of bumps in the road as far competing, but I can definitely say it was due to not as much effort as I should have in the training room or
Well,
stuff like that.
I think that then you got exactly what you needed to get out of those competitions, whether you got the outcome you wanted or not, because it exposed,
Mhm.
why you didn't get the gold at that time, right?
Mhm.
So it exposed. It sounds like some answers that.
Definitely. Like kind of like back to if you don't do the work, the mats will show it. Well,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you could be good in the gym, but if you're really not putting in the work and you decide to compete, it'll really expose you.
Mm,
And so that's the great thing about competing as a tool, like
measuring.
yeah, a measuring tool, but also like a tool to improve your mindset. Like a big thing about
Mm.
competing is if you and Coach Alvarez has preached this for years, and um, it just it some people it clicks, and I think it took me a little bit longer. Like if you have that negative self talk and
Mm.
you don't have self belief, then you're like, I don't need to show up to training because I probably can't compete with these guys. And so it affects if you talk to yourself a certain way, then you'll skip certain training sessions or you won't lift because you're like, I might not even do that great anyway. So that's what I love about jujitsu. It's like
Keeps you in
it
check.
keeps you in check. And even though you might feel some type of way at that moment where I've felt like, maybe I don't belong out here. Maybe just keep competing, keep making those adjustments. And looking back, I'm like, all right, now where I am because I didn't quit and I
Mhm.
realized I need to check my mindset, work on that, work on the visualization, all that. All that plays a part into the competing.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. So, speaking of competition, how did you prepare for your first competition back in 2012? And how do you prepare for a competition today? I know you recently won a Masters World,
I
was
got
it?
second place.
Second, oh, sorry. I was gonna go there. Second place Masters World,
Yeah.
which is huge still, not to take away from it at all just because it wasn't the gold. It was huge second place. So you had to prepare for that just recently.
Hmm.
So I'm curious to know how it started and how it's going and why you made the changes you've made.
So in 2012, I just trained. I didn't really know about weight cutting or mindset or anything. And a lot of luck, I won. I think I had some natural abilities, and I had a tough training partners back then. I had access to a lot of good training partners, so I think that helped me with my first competition. And with my most recent one, it's a little different than prior. Prior, um, I had to train 5 to 6 times a week, at the availability that I have to keep up with some of these guys that train 2 times a day, 5 to 6 days a week. So that used
Hmm.
to play a big thing. Like, these guys train more. And recently for Master Worlds, that was a big breakthrough for me because I'm training in with my gym with my guys at the gym and ladies, and they're only white belts. So I was only training out at Coach Alvarez's gym maybe 2 3 times prior to Master Worlds. So I felt like I could have easily let that affect me. Like I
Mm.
only train with white belts, and but I really focused on like this new methodology that I'm implementing at my gym, and then just telling myself, man, I've been doing this for a long time and I've been doing the right thing for a long time. Like, there's no more the right moment. Like, I am there now. Like, I'm ready now. I've already been doing the right thing. Like, there's no more eventually I'll get there. It's like now's the time.
Mhm.
And so that gave me a lot of confidence. And so typically the main thing I visualize before a tournament is driving to the venue because that gives me it used to give me a lot of nerves, and then walking to the mat, and then the bowing before. I run that through my head over and over and over because
Mm.
my adrenaline's pumping the most during those times. And so when I play that over and over, when I get to the tournament, I'm like, oh, I've been here hundreds, maybe thousands of times in my head already. So I'm able to control my adrenaline. I get a little nervous,
Mm.
but I also do things like nobody's making me compete. I choose to compete. So
Mhm.
why do you? Yeah, I'll be like, why am I doing this? Like, why do I put myself through this? Like, nobody's making you compete. You sign up, you pay.
Right.
And I really look at it like it's a privilege to compete. Like one day I might be older, or some people compete even with disabilities, but just to go to the extreme, like some people are limited to what they can do.
Right.
And so I feel very grateful that I'm able to compete, travel, meet new people from around the world, around the country, and all that gratitude makes me zone in. I think when I'm at tournaments, like, oh yeah, I love this. Like, this is the lifestyle I've been trying to design.
Yes,
And
you remind yourself why you're there,
yeah,
and
exactly.
yeah.
Instead of like, why am I doing this? Like, and I don't know why I would do that, but lately, yeah, like I'm just when I'm there, I'm like, yes, I love this. Like, and I just feed off of the nerves. I think I watched a little clip of John Jones. He's like, some people get butterflies and they let them, it's not verbatim, but he's like they let their nerves get to them, but he's like, I use it as fuel against my opponent. And so I just play that in my head too prior to tournaments. And yeah, just competing lately has been a lot of fun. I mean, it's always been fun, but it used to be kind of nerve wracking
Do you
sometimes.
think opening your own gym adds to the excitement of competing?
It can be a double edged sword. It can either add pressure or excitement. To me, I'm like, I have nothing to lose. I, I mean that's a
This is the game.
yeah.
This is
This
a time to play.
exactly like I'm like, what do I listen to when I'm training at my gym? I'm just gonna. I used to try to play like pumped up music, but I don't really listen to that when I'm training. So I'm like, I'm going away from when do I feel best? What am I listening to when I feel best at
Mm,
the gym? So I just try to recreate what I listen to at the gym. Um,
yeah. What about the food, your nutrition, like the night before, or the day of?
It depends if I'm cutting weight. So if I'm cutting weight, the day before, I'm I'm eating a lot of. I tried a new cut this time and it worked really well. I cut out all carbs basically and just did fruit and protein.
Mm.
And that, man, I dropped weight like crazy. It really it worked.
Yes.
I don't have too much trouble cutting weight, but I'm so thin. The last 5 pounds is like okay. It's a little push, but nothing crazy. So the day before, I'll eat nuts and fruit.
Mm.
Um, maybe some beef jerky. And then the day of, because I'm so close to weight, I don't eat anything at all. So I'll buy like a sandwich from Starbucks, get some Gatorade, some Red Bull energy drink, and I'll put it in my backpack. So I weigh in if I'm cutting weight. And then as soon as I get in the bullpen, I start to eat my sandwich like a PB&J,
Mm.
rehydrate, and as soon as so I'll look for my name on the board so I can be the first one in the bullpen, so it gives me like 30, 45 minutes to refuel. Um,
So, do you think like eating right before you compete, like does that make you is do you feel like that's optimal for you? Like right before you're going to compete to start kind of
yeah,
eating?
if I'm cutting weight, yeah, it makes a difference. I feel fueled because right as I weigh in, I, I don't feel weak, but I feel a little bit like deprived of my food and
Mm.
I feel a little dehydrated. I compete at the rooster weight division when I do cut weight. That's 127 pounds with the gi,
Ooh.
so I have to be like 124 pounds.
Yeah.
Normally, I can walk around 138. I'll tip on a heavy day, maybe 140, but 138, 136, somewhere there. So it's about 10, 11 pounds. But like I said, I'm
Yeah.
thin as it is, so
Right.
I really do feel it. So I feel I have to eat something.
And it doesn't bother you as you're in action?
No, because I don't stuff myself. It's just
Okay, just so
something
you
to
feel
sit in my
good.
stomach. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and the main thing is I don't even drink coffee, so I have to have some. I like to have a little bit of caffeine prior to
Right.
getting on the mat. So um, I make sure I have those two things, like a sandwich, or most of the time it's a sandwich and caffeine, and then
Okay.
boom, I'll take that in and I'll feel pretty good right after.
Nice, nice. So at what point in your journey, in your jiu-jitsu journey, did you know that you wanted to open your own gym?
I think I always, not always, maybe around blue belt. I think I saw the lifestyle people lived that owned a gym and this lifestyle coach got to live, like the traveling, the competing, the you train all the time. It's not always sunshine and rainbows. Um, but I rather deal with the things that come with that lifestyle compared to. Don't get me wrong. I work at Lockheed Martin. I like my job. I enjoy it. But I'm not passionate like about
Mhm.
jujitsu. And so like around blue belt, I was like, I think one day I can do this, but it wasn't a serious thought. And
At that point, how did you envision um the gym that maybe one day you could have?
I
W-
just always envision myself like the one thing I can always recall is I'm walking up to the gym with a cup of coffee and I'm unlocking the door and I'm opening the door and I just see the mats and like the benches and and I just like like even now I'm like that feeling is like, oh yeah, like we're here, like all
Mm.
right, I love this, you know. And that's one that I play in my head a lot and I'm getting closer to it. I really feel like all right, I'm there, but that's what I would play in my head like, oh, I can wake up, handle business, have breakfast with my daughter, take her to school. I didn't have a my daughter then, but
But she was already part of your plan
yeah,
back then.
yes. I was like, I'm not gonna have my child until I have my black belt. That was
Mm.
I would tell my wife that like let me just get to black belt because I know it's a lot of responsibility. It takes a lot of commitment and time to raise a baby. So I knew I wanted to get to black belt because just in case I had to stop training, at least
You had
I
your
got my black
belt.
belt.
Mhm.
So I got my black belt, and then that was in 2020, and my daughter was born the next year, 2021. So, mm-hmm.
Wow.
So,
Right as planned.
mm-hmm. Right as planned. Yep. So it worked out. Thank
Congratulations.
you. Yeah, and yeah, and then so um, in 2020, me and my brother Diego, we started our LLC. I was like, bro, let's go for it. Like, let's do this. But I think I didn't realize how much it takes to get a gym started, and I got a little,
Cold
discouraged. Yeah, a
feet.
little cold feet, and COVID hit, and I let that be an excuse of, "Oh, no,
Not the right
not the
time.
right time." Even though I probably could have, I let that excuse be something that stopped me. So, that was in 2020. I kept training, kept doing my thing, And then my daughter was born, and my time did start to have to balance more with, because my wife back then, she's like, "Go train, it's all right. I'll do my thing." But now it's like, I need you here. Let's put her down for her to go to sleep. And so I kept playing in my head. I was like, George, if you sit on this idea, you're gonna be old and regret
Mm,
that you didn't go forward with this gym.
yes.
And it was eating me up, kind of like back with that altercation I had. It just kept eating at me. I was like, man, if I don't start with this gym, I will never know. Even if I fail, I rather fail trying than not do it
Right.
at all.
Yes.
There's a saying like that, but I really was like, man, you have to go for it. You have to go for it. And obviously, the big thing is I have my brother by my side, and I'm like, you're not alone. I have this
Mhm.
conversation with myself. I have the support of my brother, Coach Alvarez, my family. I was like, go for it, man. So, and then when my daughter was born, I was like, I have to bring jujitsu to me. I can't keep going, and
Mm.
I have to bring it to me because now I want her with me in the gym, and I can
Mhm.
combine being a dad and my
And your
lifestyle.
lifestyle that
Yeah.
you want to live. Yeah, so basically, yeah, so bringing it to you so that you can live the life that you want to live,
Mhm.
basically.
Yeah, like a lifestyle by design. So
Mhm.
that I was like, I have to go with it. So we had bought mats back in 2020, some puzzle piece mats, and they were just sitting in my mom's garage. I mean, my brother would use them. We would go over and train. Uh, we would utilize them, but not as a classroom setting. And
Mhm.
then I purchased the house last year, and I was like, all right, I have the space. My daughter's here. Let's go for it. I mean, no looking back. And it's been scary, but as we started in February of this year officially, and now I'm like, time goes forward regardless.
Yes.
Time is gonna move, and so it's like I'm a, I look back and it's 6 months on the line, and I wish I did it, or 6 months down the line, I have all these learning lessons and
Yes.
all these things I've overcame, and it's just, and like I said, Coach Alvarez is a big key. Coach Alvarez and my mom, as far as like people I can look to for advice. Coach
Mm.
Alvarez specifically because of his
His
experience
experience,
in jujitsu and running a business, and then my mom because of the mindset, and she's like a comforting voice,
the
like the
support,
support,
yeah.
and of course my wife, but um, just all that combined, I was like, you know what, we'll be all right. So yeah, little
Yes.
by little, I mean, here we are now in September.
Yes. And tell me what you think, just having a child, but I think that, with me having a young daughter too, she's about to be 16 months. Um you really get to have a more direct sense with or touch with time because you see them growing so fast. The stages and the levels they keep hitting, it feels like it's so fast. Like
Yeah,
they were just a baby yesterday, and now like you're running around and getting into everything, So it puts a perspective of time that regardless of how much you want to stop it and wait for you till you're ready,
exactly.
right? It's just not, there's no mercy. It's not stopping, it's going.
And my daughter, she'll turn 2 in November, and so you get her memories on your phone. Like 1 year ago, I look basically the same, but 1 year ago with her, I'm like,
Hmm.
what the heck? That's not. She's like morphed into this little toddler. It's so cool, but like you said, it paints a picture like, oh wow, she's gonna be in school, and then elementary, middle, high,
Yeah.
and so I'm like, if I don't go now, I don't, and I want to be an example for her. That's
Mm.
another thing. Besides bringing it to me and combining it, I also don't want her to be like, Dad, you tell me this, this, and this, but I don't see you do any of that.
Hmm.
And so I don't want to just tell her to go for your dreams, and then I didn't pursue mine, kind of thing.
Yes. Yes, agreed, agreed. And I can relate totally with you, even just with like starting the podcast. I had thought about starting it in, I think it was winter of 2020, and the excuse I put was that I was too busy with real estate, which I was, but I wasn't too busy to not do it. Like I
Hmm.
could have done it if I would have wanted to. But then, you know, after once my daughter was born, I'm like, I thought the same thing. I'm like, one of the things that I want my daughter to to live by and to really enjoy is to be courageous and to do everything she wants to do and to face her fears.
Hmm.
So, when I would have thoughts of no, of reasons why not to do it, and I would really think about it, and it was me just kind of wanting to protect myself.
Exactly.
I'm like, wow. I'm like, I'm being such a coward.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what I don't want my daughter to be. So let's get moving. Let's do this.
I relate
So
100%. That's the biggest thing is like
yes.
you're just being scared, dude. Like,
Yeah. Just do it.
just do it. I mean, and eh, back like as an example to our children, like it's okay to fail. It's okay to make
It's
mistakes.
part of
It's
it.
part of it. Same thing with back to jujitsu, like competing. Some people never want to lose, but you might win most, but one day you will lose, and it's okay. It's how you lose will define your character. So that's a big thing as far as why competing is so important and how that helped me with my business. Like, well, if
Mhm.
I can push through the some of the stuff I had to go through with losing and like maybe I don't shouldn't compete anymore, but I kept pushing and then I've had like victories and it's like, wow, this is cool. Like this is
Yes.
what happens if you push through and
It puts it in perspective.
mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm curious to know, when in 2020, when the idea came to your mind to start your gym, and you're like, okay, how was your conversation like with your brother Diego? What did that look like?
I think it was just like, look, bro, like we're good. We good. We compete well. We do good in the gym. Like we're obsessed with jujitsu. Um, we see how it not just benefits us, but how it benefits others. We're good with people. Like we can do this. We have our mom. She's an entrepreneur since the day I can remember. And we have kind of like I said, like going back, like I tell him the same thing. We have all these people in our corner. Like
Mm,
we're set up for success. Like we can do this. It's just up to us to pull the trigger.
mm.
And we didn't pull the trigger at the time, but that's how we're like, okay, let's get this LLC going. And I think, back to my mom, she paid for our LLC. She's like, I'll put the money up for it. So, shout
Your
out to my mom
number
for,
one
yeah,
supporter.
number one, number one. So, he was
Yeah,
like, yeah, bro, let's do it. And so, my brother, I think,
he was down
he was
immediately.
down. He was down. He was kind of like he's younger than me, and so I think sometimes he looks to me to, all right, you jump and then I'll follow you. You
Okay.
jump, I'm gonna go. And so he was kind of waiting for me, like, go.
Yeah.
And I was like, come on, you go, bro. And so it's like, and so but it's okay, like, like it worked out and we
Yeah.
have the house and we're in the garage, I mean, and it was easier to jump. Like it's like, well, I have no excuse. I just walk out my door and the mats are there.
Right.
What's the excuse now? So
Right. Now, when you got your home, did you think, like, I mean, of course, you bought it for yourself and your family to live in, but did you also consider maybe at some point my garage can also be the starting
yeah, definitely. I lived
point?
in a condo prior to there, so I was like, oh, if I just had a garage. And
Mm,
no, my mom just like she'll put stuff in the garage. So it was like storage slash gym. I was like, Mom, and she lives kind of on a narrow street where a lot of people have like multifamily homes, and so the street is packed full of cars. I was like, I can't again, excuses. But I was like, People can't park here. There's too much stuff in the garage. When I have a garage, I'm gonna do it." And
Mm-hmm.
so it took a while to get my garage, but I always had in mind, if I just had a garage, I would do it. And so
Okay.
as soon as I bought the house, I looked at the garage. I was like, "Oh yeah, it's a nice. We're gonna
Yeah.
get it going in here."
Yeah, yeah. So, with starting your gym, and you mentioned like you have white belts right now. So what lessons and what kind of classes are you providing, or even just for future people that may look at the podcast or any of these clips and may want to try out Vasquez Jiu-Jitsu? What can they expect going in to a sport that maybe they know very little about, or maybe even nothing?
So right now we do, like, as of today in September of 2023, we don't have kids classes, but that's because we're in the garage. I just feel it's a liability to have the little kids in there right now. But we do. Once we
Those are coming.
They are coming. We have a location lined up, but we have an agreement that they're gonna stay a little bit longer, and it works out for me because I have to work some things out too, as far as funding goes. But they're gonna stay until December, so hopefully, fingers crossed, January of 2024, we'll have our spot and we'll have our kids program. We're building our website right now, so we'll start to collect emails, have a landing page, and so when we can keep people informed, like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
in a month, get ready, guys. We're gonna so That's our kids program. So we're gonna start them at 5 years old to 12 years old will be our kids program, and then we're going to combine our teens and adults just in one class. And so we'll provide a gi and no gi classes. I don't want to stray away from the gi. I know a lot of gyms are going no gi only, but and it's not because I want to be old school or keep a tradition, sort of say. It's just I like the gi. I have fun in the gi. Some people it's like, oh, it's boring, but I have fun in the gi. So
Yeah. Well, Coach Alvarez makes a good point about training with a gi, which is like, especially right now, actually, as we approach the next coming months of winter,
mhm.
um, people are usually bundled up. So if you do encounter an altercation, you'll know how to grapple with clothes on.
You can use grips really well with the
Right.
one thing I've realized recently, and this was due to being new and a lot of my students not even owning a gi, was initially I had to do a lot of no gi classes, and I've heard this from black belts, and it hit home with me, like, and this is an opinion, is no gi really forces you how to control another human. In the gi, you kind of control their clothing, and then in turn controls them
You can use it as
as
leverage.
leverage. But in nogi, it forces you really, how are you going to hold this other human down
Mm.
without the grips? But luckily for us, we're clothed when we're out and about, so
Well,
you
like
have
you said,
grips.
and you'll have no gi and gi, so
Exactly.
it gives you both perspectives.
We're gonna have both gi and no gi. Um, I believe, and we're gonna offer 6 a.m. classes, so that's a big thing that I think is gonna set us apart, specifically in Grand Prairie. We have a few competitors in the area, and I don't think anyone else offers a morning class. Everybody else is just evening classes, so I'm excited about that. That my brother will um, run those,
Nice. Yeah.
and yeah. So another, kind of just a backtrack, and part of my curriculum is I don't know how, I can't remember how I came across this, but I came across a podcast of a gentleman speaking about a different methodology of teaching jujitsu,
Mhm.
and I was like, this sounds kind of cool. He was using a lot of language that I didn't understand, but I was like, it intrigued me, and so I kind of just started to find any podcast this guy Greg Souders was on, and I was like, man, this sounds cool. Like, cause I personally, I would started getting bored of And it's people jujitsu across everywhere. So it's not specifically just our gym. It's just this is the general way of teaching jujitsu is we warm up in a circle, run around, jumping jacks, and yada yada. And then we get in a circle or half circle, watch technique, drill, and then and I just was kind of bored with that, but I didn't understand what else. I didn't know there was other alternatives. But I was like, I just like training. And if you ask most people, what do you like? Some people like to drill, but for the most part, people, I just want to get to the rounds. That's the thing that people do. And so as I was listening to this guy, he would describe the ecological approach. So if you look at the methodology, it's ecological approaches, the umbrella. There's like little
Levels,
levels, I guess.
like a hierarchy.
Yeah, like it's a general description, and then there's little camps, I guess you could say, of using the ecological approach. So the one drifted towards is constraint led approach. And so that basically means you put constraints on the scenario that you're trying to get certain behavior to emerge from a person. So I'll
Mm.
just give an example. So traditionally, you can learn side control by drilling. Okay, partners get chest to chest. You're gonna A, B, C, D. You're gonna have, um, and I'll get a little deep, but people can go back and re-listen to this. Eh, That's information processing. The way you
Step one,
step
step
one, step two.
two.
You have models in your head. Step one, step two, and then you're gonna learn your skill. Now
Hmm.
we're gonna apply it, do it live. That's the traditional sense. This ecological approach is um you don't give direct direction as far as step one, step two. You give constraints, and the behavior will start. You have emergent behavior off of. So instead of telling the person step one, step two, you're gonna be like, stay chest to chest. So instead of saying keep them in side control, stay chest to chest, pin your partner and bottom partner. You have, and language is very important on how you, this coaching methodology is what I'm learning. You have to look for inside control of your partner. So on the inside of their biceps, frame on the inside, and get your knees in front of your partner. So create distance with inside control and find a way to get your knees in front. And as I do this and I give this instructions, I start to see behavior emerge organically. I see people framing, pushing on the chin, and they're finding a way to get the knees in front. And I feel that way sticks better instead of step one, step two. Because normally it's like, let's do this live for 3 minutes, and you're gonna have different variables. The variables is huge in jujitsu. You're always gonna have different body types, state of minds, skill set, and so you need variability to acquire your skill, because in the live setting of grappling, variability is always gonna be there.
Right.
So when you drill a specific way, you're drilling one specific scenario.
In different ways.
Oh, in the traditional sense, in
Okay.
one way.
Okay.
And so then
Sorry.
it's like you go back, hey coach, well, they did this, and then so you tinker that way. That's instead of 3 minutes, here's your task, and you're gonna have all these variables over and over, and you're gonna start to have the emergent behavior. And I don't know, it's kind of nerdy, maybe. I don't know. Like maybe
Yeah.
I'm being like rogue. Like I want to be. It's not that I'm trying to be different. It just is exciting to me. I just feel it
Yeah.
works.
Well, I like the fact that you are trying to be different, because I feel like that's gonna add your own unique style to your gym. Now, the only question I do have, it's like, so, or the question I have, it's like, especially with having mostly, well, right now,
Mm-hmm.
new people, with some people that have never even, the only time they get on their back is to go to sleep,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like being on their back or side control, and just learning the terminology alone, it's a task at first. So for somebody that's coming in new, trying it out, and like how well, actually you do have experience because you have several white belts, and you've done this method, I'm sure, with them.
Yeah, day 1 from February, I have not done
Anything else?
drilling. Yeah, I only do this
That's
style.
method.
Yes.
Okay. So how do you think the progress for the new people that have joined been in comparison to maybe what you can remember from other white belts at other gyms?
So, I believe
You know what I mean? Because
yeah.
the reason I say that is even me just thinking about when I was a white belt and I would have to come in and just survive basically,
Mhm.
you don't even like know what to do. Like even now sometimes, if you forget to bring your legs with you depending on the move, right?
That
And
and that plays into part, like, as far as the variability of grappling. Maybe you didn't get good sleep. Maybe there's just so many variables that play into it that, um, to answer your question, it's not that this is a fast track to skills. I think it's just a optimal way to gaining skills because I'm trying to make my students become problem solvers.
Mm,
When we focus on all these why do you like to me I asked the question, why do you think there's so many instructionals out there for half guard? Because each individual person has developed different ways um doing the same thing.
mhm.
And so like the big thing with this style of coaching is repetition without repetition. So we're traditionally taught repeat the same movement pattern over and over, and that's what you're going to do live. But when we're grappling, we're just trying to accomplish certain things. Like when we're on bottom, we have to manage distance, off balance our opponent, and end up on top. And when you break it down like that, I believe my students, instead of like, okay, I need to grab the ankle. Oh, wait, is this grip better than this grip? I tell them there's no golden standard to a specific technique. Just accomplish the task. So repeat the outcome without repeating the same movement pattern over and over again. So as long as you get your knees in front of your partner, no matter how you did it, you accomplish the task. And so it gives the freedom to the student to explore different grips. It's kind of like, how do people come up with all these moves? It's in the training sessions. They're like, oh wow, look, this just came up. And then they put a name to it, or they
Right.
make an instructional because they explored it, and then they go down. So I just give my students and it's not like figure it out. It's my job to create the curriculum, guide them with the language, and if I feel like okay, they're not getting something, I'll show them, hey, if this is not working, try this, or why is it important to have an underhook, stuff like that. So I'm not gonna just leave them in the dark, but you give them a task, repeat the solution without repeating the pattern, and so they start to problem solve. That to me, jujitsu is problem solving.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I mean, I definitely like love that way of training, and as a matter of fact, I think not often at Alvarez, but there's been, I think especially before some competitions, coach would say, all right, you on your back, your job is to get out, and you on the top, your job is to submit them,
mhm.
right? And so go for X amount of time and then repeat. um and I love that, actually. Like I thought that was super efficient because it's kind of like similar, right, to kind of like what you just explained. However, I like, for me personally, I would think that like if I didn't know some of the basics, I wouldn't know what to do at all.
And that's the job of the not. I'm not saying coaches not doing it. I'm saying for me, because I'm the one trying to coach this way.
Right.
It's some people look at what I'm doing and they're like, it's positional sparring. No, that's nothing new. But i- for like to get emergent behavior, I have to design the class. So I'll give an example for um armbar,
Hmm.
right? You're taught if like I'll give two examples. When you have the armbar where you're seated and they're on their back and they're trying to break the arm apart,
Hmm.
you're taught how to get to that position, and then you have you can lean this way, you can do a few things to break it apart. That's how you're taught. So what I would do to try to teach you an armbar is I will put you in an armbar, lock your hands, and I will tell you, get the hands apart. Focus away to don't peel the fingers. I'll give certain rules to, and I'll give some examples. Peel the hands, break the hands. And so that little micro battle that you would experience in a live grappling scenario, I'll just constrain it to that singular moment over and over and over.
Mm.
And when you break the arm apart, don't submit your partner. You're just focusing on getting the hands apart.
Hmm.
So instead of like a full positional sparring, you're just working how do you get the hands apart? Hands
Okay.
apart. And it starts to stick. So when you're in a live scenario, I already know how to break the hands.
Hmm.
And so then you can go to the next layer. You're going to start with the arm fully extended. You're not going to submit your partner again, but you're going to focus on controlling their arm in the extended position and follow your hips to their elbow.
Mm.
Those kind of cues.
Okay.
And so those cues are like, you don't really know what you're doing. You just know my hips need to be at his elbow, the basic skill to an armbar. And then bottom player, get out. Find
Mm.
a way to turn your thumb. And so,
Yeah.
those little skills start to develop. That's just one example for armbar, a mounted armbar. You're taught if your partner pushes up, you're going to put your hands here, here, you're going to spin, and you're going to submit them. After a while, people don't push up anymore. They're
Ex-
gained to not pushing up. So I'll do micro battle, like a game live game scenario. You're mounted, um, bottom player, get your knees in front of your partner. So keep your hands pointed at your partner's hips and get your knees in front of them. That's the bottom player's task. Top player, get your hands partner above their ear. And that's the only battle. So you start to learn how to isolate the arm. Okay, now you isolated the arm, get your hips in front of their elbow. So that's how I'm breaking it down. And so you're doing it with live resistance. You're like, oh, this didn't work or that didn't work. And so both people are learning a skill instead of like when we drill a traditional move, you're just talking, you're kind of going through the position, and then you don't really learn until you have to apply it in the round. And sometimes, let's say you do an armbar, you're a white belt, you go against all blue belts that day, you're not gonna probably get the armbar. They're
Mm.
not gonna give you an armbar. Well, now in this style of coaching, you're gonna have the chance to
Be in that
be in
position.
that position against a brown belt. When and this brown belt's like, oh crap, I'm not usually an armbar, so it gets their defense better.
Hmm.
And so the only way to learn in this methodology, which I agree with, is in the live setting. Um, that's the only way it translates. Like skill is not permanent. It's only like so if knowledge equated to skill, that means the red belts and these high black belts would be the best in the world. Obviously, they're limited to their physical ability, but um, like a 40-year-old, maybe a 35-year-old black belt that's been training for 25 years, why isn't he winning the world titles? And this young kid, it's most of the time because it's not, like I said, knowledge doesn't always equate to skill. And
Hmm.
so I kind of ranted down that, but
Yeah, yeah, no, no, that makes
it,
that makes sense, and I can see why you're doing it, and I can see the science kind of behind it. Like to me, I question because even like some of the people that have um that have tried even jujitsu, and that some of them maybe that didn't come back. I asked why, and they said how it was too confusing. It was like overwhelming, and they didn't really understand what they were doing.
Mhm.
So thinking about it, not from like, hey, this there's a reason for this. Like how do you translate that into, say, laymo terms for somebody that has so many walls of fear to break through, and then you put him in the pool and you're just kind of live and go. I'm just curious, based on like other people's uh feedback, people that maybe didn't sign up in the past, that they felt it was very overwhelming and they didn't understand what they were doing.
Yeah, and that's a big thing that I think.
So I figured that might be something that, especially as a gym owner, and every gym owner, I guess, of any type, CrossFit or anything, there's a certain art to everything. So I think the art as the owner, it's like, okay, how do I overcome that challenge? How do I put this, or how do I make them see my vision
Mhm.
in this short period of time, so that, because sometimes once they get out the door, most times they won't come back.
And that's how I feel like if I do these games and you're day one and I put you in this armbar scenario, you're like you can have these little wins back to like
Mhm.
you're having or I had to tell myself I only got tapped out 6 times. You can do that in this same scenario where the first day you grapple, you're gonna have 0 wins. It's just like someone's gonna flow roll with you and they're gonna kinda, okay, your job is to get up and you're gonna pin your partner. That's how we're taught. But if you come in, you don't run around in a circle. You just warm up with jujitsu. That's my opinion. Because in most schools across the country, the live grappling is only the last 30 minutes. Instead of, to me, if you're gonna do an hour and 10, an hour of all grappling, all jujitsu, and you have these little wins like I was able to break a brown belt's grip apart. That's like, so if you're in an armbar, you know that you break a grip apart, or um, if I tell you get on top of your partner and just hold them down, just something as simple as that, it's a lot easier for the day one person to understand instead of
Mm.
having to run all these
Dif-
steps in their head.
okay.
It's like get on, sit on your mount your partner and just stay there. They're like, oh, I can do that. I
Mm.
mean, they might not do it efficiently, but they can easily process what I told them. Stay
Right.
on top.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And the body, we everything that exists has came through the live grappling.
Mhm.
Everything and nothing is new under the sun, moves, recycle,
Right.
and so it's just our bodies have a certain degree of movement
And everybody's
and
different.
everybody's different, but certain moves are just going to exist and they're going to emerge. So you're on top, stay on top. So the day one person is like, I can try this. All right. And they're like getting a workout, they're breathing hard
Mhm.
and they're focusing on this on the task of staying on top
Mhm.
live.
Mhm.
And then the bottom person, even though this person on top of them has only 0 experience, they still have a grown adult on top of them trying to pin them. And so the
Mhm.
bottom person, regardless of your belt level, you're gonna have to work a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that
That makes sense. That makes sense. One of the things I do like, about the way, I guess, you are coaching it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like, is task based. So you have, um, a goal in mind. You may not know how you're going to do it,
yes,
but this is the goal.
yes,
It's like, shooting a basketball, and maybe you've never shot a ball before. Maybe you're terrible, but if you just focus on shooting the ball into the net, that is the goal, until
if
you keep
you got the
refining it,
ball, yeah.
refining it, refining it, until you can make several in a row without missing.
There's an example I can use too
That makes
in
sense.
like another sport is I believe and your viewers can quote me if I'm wrong. They used to be very detailed when they would coach quarterbacks. You have to have this mechanic and this. And the sidearm guys, they would tell them you're doing it wrong. And nowadays there's quarterbacks that they're letting them, hey, you get the ball to the receiver, there's certain principles that you have to follow, right? There's certain
Mm-hmm.
things I'm not a quarterback, so I can't say verbatim what there is but as long as you're getting the ball on point every time, do that.
Mm.
And they're not being so strict on these mechanics because some players like to do this way. So when you give them the freedom, you give them certain constraints and tasks, you're getting the ball to the quarterback, you're
Mm-hmm.
doing the thing.
Yes.
You're doing the
Yes.
thing. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it gives people freedom to explore. And I'm small,
And
I'm
get to
flexible,
know their
get to know
body.
their body. Some people are tall and lanky, some people are short and stubby, and they can't do a triangle this way. So I'm going to tell you, um, cut off the left, the
Cut off the
cut
weight.
off the. Okay, maybe step one and then step two. Yeah, yeah, that probably wouldn't come back.
Right. That
You
was a
think those
joke.
things sometimes, though, but yeah, but
I
yeah,
said it for you.
like, Coach Alvarez probably would be like, yeah, yeah, I agree. But it just gives people freedom if you get, like I taught a head and arm choke. That's like when you're on the side, you're hugging the head and arm. And I'm not telling them step one, step two, step three. It's like you're in the head and arm, keep them here. Just focus on keeping them here. And bottom player, find a way to get out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun to see that. Like I'm not frustrated that like you're not doing step two. You're
Mm-hmm.
missing step two. Yeah, I don't care if you're not doing
Step
step
two.
two.
There's no
Are
step
you
two.
keeping them pinned?
Right.
Okay, cool. Keep at it.
Okay.
And everybody has something to bring to the table. I'm not ever gonna know everything about jujitsu. I might have a student that's working for him, and I have this other guy or lady. Hey, I'll tell you what I do. If it works, awesome. If not, blah 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 over here is does this. Try it out. And
Mm-hmm.
so it just everybody's learning as a
As a
team.
team.
And it's not that other teams don't learn as a team. I learned as a team at Alvarez, but you don't have to look at your instructor like he knows everything. I don't know enough. Like let's all explore. Like people were,
Mm.
um,
I like what you say because I feel like I don't know, I was going to ask you about the community and the culture that you want to cultivate, so that kind of takes me there. Because just based on what how you're speaking on how you want to present yourself as a coach, it's it's not like, hey, look at me at for all the
yeah,
answers. Like, let's explore,
hmm,
let's see what you can do, and then we'll add from there.
exactly.
Or I can give you some tips, based on where you're at
Hmm.
for the next level, because it's also unrealistic to be here and for this advice to be optimal, where there's a huge gap, and the only way to breach that gap, it's through the repetition to
Through the
get there,
application.
through the application and repetition of whatever it is that it's you're trying to accomplish, right?
Hmm.
So but anyway, say that being said, like, it's I feel like that's a key thing of how you're going to run your or how you're running your gym, that creates a certain type of culture. So have you thought about the culture you want to create,
Yeah, definitely.
um or build?
Yeah, and I'm working on that, and like it's a body of work. Like I mean, it's in it, like for sure. I want a competitive environment, and that doesn't mean people are competitors, but like I don't. And this is just for my gym. I don't want like show up and we just hang out on the mats and we talk about our day and then we kind of wrestle and roll around. That there's gyms like that, and there's like let's be if you want to say inclusive, and there's um people will gravitate to that, that's fine, but that's not what I want. For sure, coming up under Mr. Alvarez, as far as the intensity and the accountability, that's something I'm gonna take with me, and I'm applying it in my gym. Like, all right, we're here, we're all here for a goal, and our goal is to get better at jujitsu.
Hmm.
And it's fun, but also like, let's get to work. And
Hmm.
we can have fun. I'm not saying it's like boot camp.
Well, there's an hour to an hour and a half, depending how long the classes are, and it's like that's the time to get to work,
Yeah.
and then afterwards, then whatever it
Yeah,
is.
and I've always loved that about Alvarez. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love, talking to my friends and all that, but for me, I've always taken my training seriously as far as like when I show up, it's time to put in work.
Hmm.
And so that's my thing. You guys show up, you guys are paying me to um,
Deliver
deliver and
jujitsu.
push you guys
Hmm.
and get better. Let's get better at jiu-jitsu, and the faster you guys get better, to me, the more fun I mean, jiu-jitsu is fun from day one, but when you really start to have the back and forth, the chess game, it's more fun.
Right, right, for sure. And I know earlier you mentioned even principles. I think you were giving the example of like the focus. I think I mentioned the basketball hoop and
Mhm.
said, oh, football, there's certain principles. So, what are some of the most important principles um, in jujitsu that you want to teach to your students at your gym? What do you think one some of those key principles are to excel in jujitsu?
I think like a few. So one, it's managing distance as a guard player. If you can't control the space of the player on top, you're gonna get smashed. And so inside control, whether your feet are on the inside or your hands are on the inside for underhooks, that's how you can manage distance. But as soon as the your opponent starts to put their hands on the inside space, it's gonna be hard to manage distance. So that's huge. Hand fighting from all levels is going to be big. When you're wrestling or engaging in a stand up exchange, hand fighting. It's not just trying to get to the legs. There's hand fighting to set up your takedowns. When you're guard playing, it's grip fighting, it's pummeling. You're always hand fighting. If someone's on your back trying to choke you, you're hand fighting, looking for the top position. So as long as you know you're always hand fighting, it's easier. Like sometimes people just engage in a guard, they let their opponents grab them, and they don't do anything. So I'm big on, okay, we're gonna start apart. Bottom player, try to connect yourself to your partner, and top player, break the grips. And that skill is very important. Like controlling who's gripping who at what point, and then off balancing. Uh, I don't want to sound like a nerd, but I like using it because the Japanese people are good at using one word for
Multiple
multiple
things.
things. Like, so I think the word is kazushi, off balancing your partner.
Mm.
So if you can off balance your partner, you're gonna
Have a room
room
for
to get underneath,
hmm
get your sweeps.
open that window
Yes,
of opportunity
and
to.
sometimes people are guilty of, they get grips and they like hold on for dear life, and there's no off balancing going on. So as
Right.
long as you are actively keeping your partner off balance, it's gonna help with all the techniques that you can come across.
Okay.
I think almost everything comes off the off balancing, whether you're in De La Hiva, butterfly guard, close guard, spider guard, lasso guard. What do you have to do? You have to off balance your partner. So
Hmm.
those are some of the big keys I'm trying to implement with my students.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then pinning. So we're taught side control and mount, but all of that, if you sum it up, is pinning and then immobilizing a
Mhm.
partner.
Right.
If you kind of get all the fancy words away, pin them and immobilize them. And oh, okay. Keep them down. Keep their hips to the mat. If they start to, the farther they get away from the mat, the less you're pinning them. The more you break them down, the easier, or the better you're doing at keeping them pinned.
And what are some of the key points on the body to maintain pressure to keep them pinned? What would you say some of the weaker spots? So for somebody that doesn't understand their body so much and where
Hmm.
the strong points, if somebody's going to pin you down, what are some of those? If you were going to pin somebody else down, what are some of the areas you're going to keep pressure on for sure?
For sure, I would say focus on breaking their points of base. So like if they're on their hands, well, you have to break their hands down to where they're on their elbows. Okay, that's
Hmm.
one layer. They're on their elbows, they still have a post. Start to find a way to break their post. Um, and as you start to break them down, they get closer to the mat. Um, then you have to immobilize their legs or hips. Once you control the center
Mm.
mass of someone's body,
Ooh,
you
okay.
know, the hips and chest area,
The trunk.
the trunk, it's gonna a lot of our power comes from our hips. We're
Mhm.
able to pop up with our hips. Baseball power comes from your hips, throwing hips. So if you can break their base down, whether it's their legs or hands, and you focus on their center mass, their trunk, and pin that, you're gonna have success keeping someone down.
Mhm. And having them exert their energy so that then you can look for the submission.
Yes, and when you're on top, you have gravity on your side, so
Mm.
you have to play that into your favor.
Yes, yes, for sure. So, one of the things I noticed uh, when I trained at your gym was that you were rolling with all the individuals that were in there training with us. So is that something that you put thought into that you want to do, or how was there any thought
Yeah,
on how you train with your
it's
athletes?
it's to be honest, it's because I want to train. I like it's not the only do I want to coach, but I love training. So it's like, and I'm still an active competitor, so I have to get in the mix. If not, I feel I'm falling behind. So that's one. It's like
Mm,
I have to keep rolling. I have to, and this style helps me because it's not like I'm not that I'm beating them up, but like I'm putting myself in positions that I have to work out of myself. And so when I compete, even though this guy's a black belt, I still have students that have been on my back or pinning me in the and now that I've broken it down in these concepts, I'm like, forget all this step 1, step 2 crap. Where am I at in the fight and
mm,
what am I looking for? And so I'm able to really observe where I'm at and I just do what you gotta like find a way to so like if they have underhooks or if they're inside control, the first battle is get underhooks. Don't worry about I gotta get to half guard and this and that. So
mm,
that has helped with my competing. And then also to the original question is sometimes I might have a student that's a 200 plus pound man and then I have a lady. I don't feel safe to even though there might not be intentional he can hurt her.
mhm,
And
mhm.
I'm just like, yeah, I'll put myself
Okay,
there to
okay.
roll with the lady, and so both people are getting
Good training.
training without I'm having to um,
Put
put
safety on the
safety. Yeah,
line.
exactly. So
Right.
that's the big thing too is get everyone can get good training without me having to. All right, you and you roll, and it's like they don't fully know how to control their body like I can with all the
Right.
experience I have.
Right, right, for sure. Okay. Okay. So yeah, that was something that I noticed and I thought it was neat and I was curious to know if it's a way for you as a coach to also to start learning how your students are rolling, and how to help them improve. And so speaking of different ways of coaching, so people see coaches, or coach may mean something for different people. Some people may be just somebody to tell me what to do, and somebody else may be may see a coach as to, hey, help me on how to improve. um how What kind of coach do you see yourself as?
Yeah, I think my job as a coach is to optimize your skill acquisition of jujitsu. Number one, like you're some people are going to come in there for self-defense, weight loss, and so I want to help everybody in all those aspects, but all that will come from gaining the skill of jujitsu. So
Mm,
if I can do the best job I can to help you acquire the skill of jujitsu, you're gonna learn to defend yourself.
everything else follow
Yeah, you're
through.
gonna lose weight. And to get better at your skill, you're gonna have to do the other things, the eating right, going to sleep early, the and so all that plays into the optimizing skill acquisition. And then to me, and I take this role also like looking to coach, um some people are going to come in not knowing what it looks like to live the jiu-jitsu lifestyle. And so if I'm in there eating a McDonald's in my car before I go in and all right guys, you guys got to eat healthy if you want to
Mm,
get better. So I take that seriously, like okay, I got to same thing with my daughter, I got to practice what I preach with my students.
mm,
And it forces me to be the best version of myself.
right.
So that's what I love about coaching. It's like you can't fake the funk, man. You gotta like be real. You gotta be real. And so that really, I really like that about coaching. It's like people sniff out fake.
Mm.
You can't disguise it. You can only disguise
N-
it for so long.
Right. I was just gonna say you can only do it, but only for so
Hmm.
long. Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. And so with this type of training, I know that you recently like learned about it, and you're practicing it out because you believe in it. How did your brother think of this new concept? Because now things isn't like, oh, this is, I'm just the only owner. It sounds like it's gonna be like a two people
Yeah,
thing.
definitely. It's me and my brother. It's just people see me more because my brother works at night. So and it's in my house, so I'm there more often. But once he has the availability, he's gonna be there more often.
Right.
But like I said, my brother backs me up. I mean, like
100%.
100%. I mean, I the thing is, he's not really. Initially I sent him a lot of videos. Hey, watch this, so you know what I'm talking about. Because even me, it's taken me a while to wrap my head around it, and I'm still learning. I mean, I plan to go visit this guy to kind of like understand, like one on one, like can you see how his classrooms are ran, um
Mm,
and
I like
not
that.
to like because I want to change my affiliation or anything. I'm riding the Alvarez flag forever, but I just enjoy this style of training, and I gotta go to the information
Well,
source.
I think it's also good for the, even if you're just affiliated with Alvarez, and, because why would you want to try to replicate something that's not yours? Because that's his way, right? So, like, this is your way, the way you believe in it. So, this is what sets you apart.
Exactly.
Some people, like you mentioned earlier, some gyms like the, hey, come and let's just do a couple of easy rolls and let's hang out and chat. And that's unique too. That's the
Hmm.
way they want to run it.
That's true. Yep.
You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And so there's a home for different people, but
Exactly.
you know, um, people you want, this is the kind of people that you would want to attract to your gym.
Yeah, and that's a good way to put it. I really didn't put it in that perspective. So that's yeah, that's true. Like I'm building this, and I'm sure people are gonna come and be like, I don't like this, and that's okay.
Right.
And I want people that do like it. And so um yeah, Diego, and I'm doing mainly most of the learning. He's learning, but through me.
Mm-hmm.
And he does watch some videos, but like I said, he backs me up. He's like, all right, that makes sense. And so he's open to it. And I'm kind of like, hey, don't drill. Like, let's get away from that because to me, it's a crutch. Like, we're so used to it,
Mm.
and every Monday, I get a little bit of anxiety because I'm like, oh crap, how am I gonna design this new skill? Because there's only so much information out there.
Mm-hmm.
How am I gonna get people to learn De La Hiva or something like that? Like, and so
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, and the way I design class, it's like not like we're gonna do this half guard sweep the whole class. I believe you have to get a little bit of everything every class. So a little bit of wrestling, a little bit of guard, a little bit of top.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm having design class. So every Monday I'm like, oh crap. And I don't know, maybe I work good under pressure, but it's always a last minute thing. And then I put it together really fast. But I'm every weekend I'm like, George, you have all the time in the world. Just put it together this weekend when you're not stressing about it. But I put it off, and then when it's crunch time, it's like, oh crap, it's 4:30, and then but I put it together, and like my back's against the wall kind of thing, and
Yeah.
my students are really cool. They're open to what I'm doing, so I'll tell them, hey, this is a new game. As we play it, I have to adjust the game, the verbiage I use. For example, again, we were doing takedowns from the back, and I was like, take your partner down. I used to just say, take them down, thinking the behavior is just going to naturally emerge, but I wasn't giving enough information.
Mm.
And so recently I learned what are the key elements to taking someone down when you're behind them. Besides slamming them, what are you doing? You're either blocking their leg or you're splitting their legs open. So once I told them focus on blocking the leg or splitting their legs open, I'm seeing the behavior emerge. Like
Mm.
they'll start to wrap their legs, or they put their foot behind the feet, or they spread the legs open. And I'm like, combine them. You might block and then split.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just stick to one.
Yeah.
And so I forgot why I was talking about. Oh my god. Um,
I don't know, but it's good.
yeah, I forgot. I was like, I don't
Yeah.
even know how I went down that. But yes, so that with designing class and my brother,
That's
so
right.
we're learning as we go kind of thing. So
Okay.
I'm implementing it, and my brother, he implements it. And the good thing about me rolling with my students in these games, I'm like, okay, I should have said this because since I have so much experience compared to them, I'm naturally doing
Yes.
something, and I'm like, okay, I have to tell them look for this, and
Right.
and that's how. And like I said, I'll tell my students, okay, we're gonna shift it a little bit because this wasn't working, and we just go
R-
together.
Right, right. So, because I would imagine, as a coach, and you've done this for so long. I mean, what is it like 12 years?
11 years this year,
11
and so
years.
next year will be 12 years.
That's right. That's
Mm-hmm.
right. So, it's like it's almost like the back of your hand, especially with you taking little to basically no breaks. I mean, 1 month, it's nothing. So, it's like a lot of these things are basically almost second nature. So, do you find yourself going back to how you would have wanted to learn when you were a white belt?
Yeah, I do. And I think a lot of times it used to be like, I don't know how to describe my technique. Like I would do things, certain guards, and I didn't really know how to describe it. And I would have to think, okay, scenario one, A, B, C. And now that's how I would break it down. And I would get flustered. I'm like, I gotta break every little detail down. But this way I can look at what am I doing? Okay.
What's the goal?
What's the goal? Like if I'm like my favorite guard is in let's say in the gi, it's a Delahiva with a pant grip. That's my favorite guard. So what do I do initially? Off balance my partner so I can get underneath them.
Hmm.
And when I just break it down like that, I feel like I'm learning all over again,
Mm,
and then it's like making me a better coach. Like,
for sure.
hey, uh, you know, get underneath your opponent. Start with your feet in between their legs,
Mm.
partner on top. I'll give them a task, but the bottom person get your hips underneath, and then they end up in single leg X or X guard, or I'll start them in these positions, and so it helps with that. Like, oh man, if I was just described this way, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I still learned. I still was able to progress, but it's fun. It's cool
It's
doing this.
constant learning. Now I
Yeah.
feel like it's just a different level
Mhm.
of learning
Mhm.
because now you're on the side of coaching.
Mhm.
And so had you I'm curious to know, like, have you had any previous type of like coaching skills or trained anybody, whether it's at work um
Uh, w yeah,
or
I
or
guess
anything
actually that's a good
else?
question, yeah, like, cause I thought you're gonna ask in jujitsu. As far as jujitsu, I really never taught any classes. There was, like, maybe a handful, like, I could count on one hand. Coach asked me, like, "Hey, all my coaches aren't here, but I trust you, you're a black belt. Can you run class?" But it was I have to teach the technique of the week, so there was really no
Okay.
thinking about it. It's just like, "Oh, coach showed me what I have to teach, and I just teach it and just walk around and make sure everybody's doing that." And then I did a few private lessons on like the guard I like, but besides that, not
Mhm.
really like showing somebody a full game of how to be a grappler.
Mhm.
This is on you. But like to answer your question, I have trained people like at work and stuff, and I feel like I I would do what I'm doing now. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna show you how I do it. There's certain guidelines because like I'm in aviation, you have to follow. But as long as you're within your parameters or your measure your tolerances
Mhm.
for aviation, it m- then make it work.
Yeah.
And so I'll tell them, I tell them, hey, if you find a better way, show me. And that's actually happened. Like I've had a coworker, hey, I did this, and I was like, oh yeah, that works, and we're still getting to
The
the
outcome.
outcome,
Yeah,
and
the
without knowing this whole ecological thing.
right.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, it works even with the jujitsu.
Yeah, I see. Now, let's take a quick break because I do have to use the restroom, and
Gotcha,
it's getting
gotcha.
to a point where I may lose my focus if I
No,
don't
it's
use the
okay.
restroom.
It well, it's crazy hearing my voice for that long.
Oh, you can put it. I just
Oh,
put it
oh
there
yeah,
by
sorry.
habit,
Oh,
actually. But I'll be right
I'm okay right now. Thank you. Oh, sure, I'll take a little more. Yeah, the one over in Fort Worth. It's like White Settlement area.
We build the F-35 fighter jet there. So I work in final assembly. Oh, but they're like no, that the like at Lockheed we don't work on them, but there's test pilots there and stuff, and there's test jets that they learn to fly on. I don't know the name of the jet. It sucks, but they're like trainer jets. They're a little slower, like compared to the F-35 is like agile, and this one it's still a jet, but it looks more like bulky, a little slower. But that's yeah. Respect to those guys because like they have to get in something that no one's flown yet. You know, they're the first ones. Make sure it's working. Well, yeah, they're missiles and fire control. So they build missiles there. They're smaller. The one in Fort Worth is huge. They share the runway with like a reserve joint base there. So there's like active. Yeah, wait, like the city is technically white settlement, but it's like if you pass Hewlin, you keep going west like 10 more minutes. Yeah, that's why the Prius comes in handy because I live all the way in Grand Prairie and I get to go all the way to Fort
Sorry about
Worth. Oh
that.
no, it's okay. It's okay.
It's all this coffee.
Yeah, it's okay. I feel like I was kind of rambling. I was like, lets me gather my thoughts sometimes. Yeah.
No, it's well, we're back. But it's all I think it's all part of the beauty of just a long form conversations that sometimes you get to branch out on different kind of topics
Hmm.
as they come up and
Yeah,
then just
definitely.
different ideas, and I always find them useful because they're the most spontaneous, and you know there's good gems in those,
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
good information. So, but I was curious too, like, because there's with sometimes running a business with just anybody overall can be challenging.
Hmm.
How do you and your brother, and especially sometimes even with family, can be touchy, right? I mean, we've heard lots of stories, great stories, but also some that sometimes doesn't end well.
Yeah.
So what are you guys doing right now, or and plan to do to run a good growing business together forever, with as minimum uh uh, challenges, like, well, challenges are going to come,
Yeah.
period,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So basically, how do you two plan on tackling on those two together?
The biggest thing is going to be communication. I think. My brother has a strong, not attitude, but
uh, uh, um
not not energy, attitude, character, strong
Character.
character,
Mm-hmm.
and so can I. But I think I'm a little more relaxed. So we do ebb and flow. Like we do work well. He's more fiery, and I'm a little more calm. And so I do like that. Like when there's time to get fiery and handle things with we if we have students that you got to get a little not assertive, but like this is
Right.
things this he's good at that.
Yeah.
But w- sometimes we can get annoyed with each other and just not talk and just stay annoyed. So the big thing is going to have to be talked through these emotions that we can go through because he can get maybe upset with me and he's just kind of more grumpy, and I could be. That's where we're the same. We can be grumpy without saying
Without
anything,
saying it. Yeah.
and that's a work in progress for sure.
Yeah. Do you guys have you guys had conversations on like how you guys are willing to commit to each other and to the gym?
Yeah, we definitely have, and I think we we're gonna have more. I think
Right.
we've had some, and but because he's limited to how much he's involved, it's I don't see him as much. But I'm sure as the finances grow, the responsibilities grow, I'm sure we're gonna have to sit down and talk when we're feeling overwhelmed. Like, hey, I feel I'm doing too much, or you're not
Mhm.
doing enough, yada yada. So right now, because I had to reduce actually my class availabilities, I was doing Monday through Thursday, and then the Saturday, and because he couldn't come, and that's not his fault. He has to make a living as well.
Mhm.
I was like, I'm doing too much. I'm doing more, but that's not a fault to him. So I was like, you know what? Okay, let me take a step back. Let me just and the thing was, because we have a small amount of students, I felt I was doing one-on-one private lessons. Like there's so much availability, they could pick and choose. So I would have
Mhm.
one student, or so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna reduce the time for so I can build a team. I'm not trying to do one-on-one sessions. I'm trying to have people on the mat together, and then it takes some of the workload off of me, and I think that was like a good move. Like, so as
Mm.
long as we can pivot and make those moves, it'll
Mhm.
help, I think, with the business. Like something's not working, instead of pointing the finger at each other, let's
Figure out a
figure out a
way.
way. Let's get a solution. That was like one most recent thing. Like I
Yeah.
was feeling like I'm doing a lot, yada yada. Well, what do you want? What I want him to do? Like come and quit it? I can't. I can't expect that of him.
Yeah.
So with doing that, that was like big, like one thing. So my mom's always like, cause she's a mediator, but between us, not that we argue a lot, but
She helps
she helps.
paint the
Yeah,
picture
yeah.
and clarify
Mm-hmm.
things. Talk about communication,
Yeah,
right?
communicate.
Clarify.
You have to talk. You have to talk, and that's with everything. I have to, I have to be a better communicator with students. I have to be a better communicator with my wife. So this business really like puts a magnifying glass on things on
Everything.
everything of what I have to improve.
Especially the priorities, right?
Yeah.
Like your priorities, it's like it's not so easy to just ignore them for a bit and do what you want to do because now people depend on you.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And even my students, they might not depend on me like as like a provider, obviously, but they still depend on me as like
A
help.
provider for
Yeah, like
jujitsu.
guide me through this, and
Right.
so I have, I'm learning how to do that with my students, and like I said, it forces me to do that with all my other relationships too. Like I
Mm,
said, my brother, my coworkers, like speak what's on your mind, but you don't have to be rude. Like just working all those things,
all those
all those
angles.
angles. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because there's definitely like challenges that are going to come regardless of what route you're taking in life, regardless of what career path you're choosing, right? Regardless if you're doing it solo or with a partner, or with a team. So it's like, have you guys thought about anything, any challenges that you are prepared to take on? Does that make sense? Like, are there any thoughts you've put into, hey, we may encounter these issues?
Yeah, definitely. Like being with Coach all these 11 years, I've got to see him grow as a business owner, and
Mm,
I'm just gonna say all the crap he's had to deal with. Some people, like it's like it to
mm,
use that also, like it also intimidated me at first to start my business, seeing what Coach had to go through. Like,
mm.
oh man, people are people sometimes.
You're right.
Like, do I want to deal with that? Like, do I want to put myself there? And I have to really put in perspective. Yes, I do, because I get to live life by my own means, and
Mm-hmm.
all it means is have to deal with a few headaches here and there. Sure, because of the regret I would live with will be way worse than this these people have to deal with.
It's like choose your hard,
Choose your
right?
heart. Yes, exactly. Exactly. And I tell myself that like crap's going to be hard regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Life is it's beautiful, but it's also difficult. And
Mm-hmm.
so as long as I accept that life is difficult, I can choose certain battles. And then also like I said, coach, seeing some of the stuff he dealt with, I can implement rules. And he's told me, he's like, you already seen what I've had to do. So you can implement rules and lay the guidelines now instead of down the line and people are like, "Hey, why are you making these new rules up?" Like,
Mm-hmm.
even though you're the business owner, you could do whatever you want at any point, but still,
Yeah,
eh,
kind of get ahead of those headaches
get ahead of
before
those
they
headaches.
even happen.
Yes, uh-huh. So that's a big thing that me and my brother talk about. Like, all right, he's had to deal with, and my brother running the front desk is even a bigger help. That's the big thing. I'm like, you basically have a paid internship, bro. You're
Right.
you're an intern of running a jujitsu business.
Right.
And so he sees stuff in the background that, me and you might not see. And he'll let me know, like, this is how we handle it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And so we'll discuss things like that, like, all kinds of issues that
Right. That
coach deals with, but he's um
already been there.
already been there, optimize it. When they happen, he's got an answer to it. I'm sure every once in a while new things happen, but for the most part, he has answers to a lot of things.
Yes, yes, for sure. So, and earlier you mentioned like you do want to make it to where you want to grow competitors. Is that right? Like,
Well,
or not grow competitors, but it's like you welcome competitors.
yeah,
Sorry.
definitely. Yeah, like I was listening to a podcast with some jujitsu guys, and they basically were saying they don't like to judge a gym based off their best guys. They like to judge the gym based off their mediocre guys. How good are your worst guys?
Mm,
And I like to think that too. Like, if a
mm,
stranger comes in and my best guys aren't there one day, and I'm like, oh crap, they're gonna run through everybody. But I'm like, you know what? My guy here, that father of three, 40 years old, has a full-time job, but he can handle himself. That's what I want. And it's not that he's mediocre, but it's just saying jujitsu is straight up hobby, and I don't want hobbyists to equate lack of skill.
mm,
So that's my big thing. Like John Danaher, he's a big name in jujitsu.
mm-hmm.
He has these top level guys, but he's always talked about that. He has a lot of these no name guys that are beasts, and they don't compete, but they are really good
Mm,
grapplers.
mm-hmm.
So I want the same thing. Like grapplers, I mean, the competitors, that's kind of like a self-driven thing. Those guys are kind of rise to the top no matter where they're at. But um, it's like, how can I bring the best out of this average Joe?
Mm-hmm.
Sort of say. So yeah,
Right. So, I'm glad you said that because, one of the things that, I see sometimes it's that like, um, so for everything, there's different levels, right? And sometimes say the gym grows so much. So how do you plan on of growing yourself as well as with your gym, right? So, as you start getting in more people of all kinds of walks, all kinds of levels, and nowadays, especially maybe back then you saw more competitors
yeah,
because it was more rare, you would say. Now it's getting more popular, so you
yeah,
have people that just want to stay in shape and know the practice or know the art, and some people do want to compete.
yeah,
So, I guess it's two different questions. One is like, how do you plan on growing as your gym grows, as your business grows? And two, how do you plan on managing different types of goals that you may have in your gym? So maybe some people are competitors, some people just want to practice and learn and not compete. So mixing all these people in one mat, and you coaching to them daily, how do you think, how does that play out? How does that look like in your head?
Yeah, I've ran through that in my head too, and it part of my planning, like, when I get there, I feel like we'll see exactly what I'm gonna do, but just uh thinking about it now, it's like, okay, I have to not just make the room competitive, but let people know when they come in the door, like, not that it's gonna be intense training, but the level of training is at this level, whatever,
Mm,
like,
okay.
we're here.
Yeah, there's gonna be a bar.
There's a bar, and I want you guys at this bar, regardless of your competitor. Like, most competitors make up a small percentage of the gym.
Hmm.
It everywhere you go, unless like certain gyms like AOJ or Autos, where it's like competitors flock there. Most of your gyms is regular people,
Hmm.
but I still want the level here.
Right.
Okay, and so it's like
The
the
quality.
quality. So when you come in and do a trial, if you're a complete newbie or you have prior experience, I want to be clear to my potential student, this is where the bar is.
Hmm.
And if it works, cool. If not, it's okay. So I think as long as I let them know, and it's like, it doesn't mean you're going to come in every day and we're going to get after it. That is just, but there's a certain level that I will hold you
There's
to.
no slacking,
There's no
basically.
slacking in this. Like, there's a certain level every day, regardless. We don't have to come in and kill each other. That's not what I'm saying. But you guys are paying
There's an
me. There's an
expectation.
expectation. If you're not feeling it, and it's kind of like when I say these things, it's like when you start to quote your parents after you move out of their house. I feel like that with Coach Alvarez. Like, he would
Yes.
say things, and sometimes I'm just like a little kid. Like, I love training, so I know he's gonna give his speeches, and I'm just like, I'm happy to be here. But they play in my head because I'm there listening. And then as the years go on, I'm like, you know, re- retaining it, and now I'm like, what he would say is, if you can't meet my level expectation for that day, then just go for a run. Don't come in.
Mm,
If you know what I'm expecting and you're not feeling
you're
that,
not
you're
there.
not there,
Yeah.
just don't come in. No hard,
Yeah.
no foul. But when you come in, expect to be held at that level. So I'm doing the same thing with my students. If you feel lazy, just go for a run then,
Mm.
because when you come in, we got to get after it, because everybody else on the mat's ready to get after it.
Right. Yeah. Somebody that was here on the podcast a few podcasts ago said that he's actually a coach. He played professional basketball too in Ireland, and um, coached here in many different colleges for basketball. And now he has his own gym called the Bubble, where he coaches agility training and basketball. But he said, even as a father, he said that everything else, whatever results you put out, say on the court, like whether it's good or not, it doesn't matter as long as you put 100% of the effort in.
Exactly.
Every day is going to be different, and some days are better than others. But he said everything. The only thing that he doesn't allow even his daughters to do is to not put all the effort in. You
Hmm.
may have a good bad day, you may have a bad game, bad tournament, whatever. But if the effort was there, it's all that counts.
Yeah, that's I agree 100%, because you're not always going to be the hammer, especially in jiu-jitsu. I'm sure like, there's some
Hmm.
days you might feel great, and then you're like, oh crap, everybody else is feeling great too today, so it's like, it's tough, and you might not have, but as long as when you put your gi on or your no gi stuff on, you're like accepting that you have to show up, put
You're
in
there
your
to
work, and
learn.
you're there to learn. And
Yeah.
regardless if you didn't win your rounds, just
you came in with a good attitude, and
Yeah.
so that's big.
I like that a lot about, just talking about you and the mentality behind how you want to grow your gym, because I feel like it's a place where anybody's invited. It's all inclusive. It's all focused on growth, learning a skill, and meeting you kind of where you're at,
Yeah.
And so I love that about your gym, and I'm glad that both you and your brother. I have more experience knowing your brother.
Yeah.
I know him better than I know you, and I know that you already have a great partner in business,
Yeah.
because even when he's at the gym working, and then he gets to put in his gear and roll with us. Um, or even if he doesn't roll, he's constantly out there coaching everyone,
Mhm.
and he's working the front desk, and he gets back here whenever, as soon as he can. And whether he's training or not, or he's just rolling with us, helping, and, he's always giving feedback,
Definitely. Yep.
always giving feedback. So, I thought already, like, that's something so good and promising for, like, and so fortunate for all your future, current and future athletes.
Yeah, and he loves jiu-jitsu
He
like I do.
loves it.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's why we're in business together.
You can tell. You can
He's
just
he
tell.
loves it. I mean, like, he has the bug just like me, and he's been competitive his whole life. I mean, we've been competitive with each other our whole life, and so it just works. It just works. Like, I tried getting him in it when he was like 14, but he still was doing football, so it didn't really stick. He started when he was 16, and then now this year he turns 24, 23. I'm sorry, and
Wow.
he loves it. I mean,
Yeah. And he's great at it too. And he pays very good attention to detail.
hmm
And I say that firsthand from my own personal experience. I mean, he's watching, and he doesn't have to do that. I mean, there's other people that work there, and they could be giving you maybe the same level of coaching, but he really stands out because he goes above and beyond, and is constantly watching everybody.
yeah, he's passionate, and he loves, I think, to see people grow.
Yes.
And it's like, especially because he gets to be he's encountering everybody in the gym. There's a point
Hmm.
at the end, like towards before I opened my gym, that there's so many people I would say hi to everybody, but you kind of, you talk to certain people, and then you're just in and out. Like,
Yeah, and it's fast
it's fast
pace.
paced, but he talks to everybody. He knows
Hmm.
everybody's name. He talks to everybody. He sees like what they were like when they started. Some people, I'm like, oh, how long you been training here? Oh, cool. Like, sometimes there's just so many people sometimes, but
Right.
he sees it all, and
Yeah.
he's like,
Yeah, he's definitely a tool, a great asset
mm-hmm,
for the gym, part of the Vasquez
mm-hmm.
Jiu-Jitsu
Yeah, we're the
clan.
Vasquez bros.
The
That's our thing.
Vasquez
So
Bros.
that's what
Yeah.
coach calls us, and yeah, I mean, I am who I am as a grappler because of him, and I could probably say the same for him because we've been on the mats countless hours, working games. We're always texting each other before tournaments, like,
Yeah.
And the cool thing, he's not a yes man. My brother's not a yes man, and
Mm,
so he'll tell you like it is,
yeah,
regardless if you like it or not, and
that's
that's
good.
the kind of person you need in your corner.
Definitely.
Or by your
Definitely.
side, not in your corner, like, we're
Yes.
going through this together.
For sure. For sure. So, like, what for any person wanting to or thinking about trying jujitsu, what advice would you give them?
I would
Somebody's
s-
thinking about it, and they're not so sure. Maybe they're seeing the sign or a sign.
I would say, like, if you're on the fence, just try it. Okay, that's one. Just find a gym close to you, or if there's
Recommended.
recommended, just because so many people train now that it's easier to find someone that trains. Go and try it out. And if you don't like it, I would say try a few gyms. Don't go based off
One.
one gym. There's so many options now. Maybe
Mhm.
back early 2000s, there was a handful of gyms in the Metroplex and you would have to commute. But now there's so many gyms just in your area, wherever you live for the most part, especially here in the Metroplex. Like, try more than one gym.
Mhm.
Try more than one gym because, like we were saying, certain gyms have their microculture and you might vibe better with one than the other. But don't um, get discouraged off your first experience if it didn't go well, you know?
Mhm.
S- some black belts are kind of jerks. I'm not saying anyone specifically. There's some black belts that they don't really treat their white belts that great or whatever. I mean, I don't know. Or not maybe the black belt, but the people on the mats are like not welcoming of the new guy.
Mhm.
Don't take that experience and paint it the jiu-jitsu community like that.
Mhm.
They're I mean, especially at Alvarez, when you join, everybody's like making sure you're okay. They're guiding you, and at my gym too. Like, so,
Yeah.
tr-
And that goes to the culture that you're kind of cultivate.
mhm,
And if there's any sour apples that come in here and there, the whole system itself will make sure to kind of get those out.
mhm,
Yeah.
and that's the plan. Like, have these implementations where you either weed them out before they even step on the mats,
Mhm.
and then before they step on the mats, you give them certain guidelines, little tiers of like kind of
Yeah.
people we want. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why when I'm building our website right now, our developer was like, "Hey, go ahead and put the prices, and they can just sign up online." And I was like, "I guess maybe that's a good idea." But my brother had a good rebuttal, and I'm glad he said that. He's like, "We want to filter who's joining. We don't just want
Mm.
they're just gonna sign up and show up, and it's like we don't. Are you cool with how we do things? You know, I mean, sure, we can take your money and you show up, but then
Right.
you're not with the program that we're trying to do." So he's like, "No, let's get them to come, try, explain to them what we're about, and then they can sign up." I was like, "Oh, that's true. That makes a lot of sense."
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, hey, look, teamwork's
Uh
already
huh.
coming into play. So where do you see yourself? What would you like to for the gym to transform into? Where do you see the future, or do you plan on opening maybe different gyms and different areas? What's the right now? And of course, they can always change, but for now.
Yeah. For now, like a 5 year goal is have like 300 students plus, and then I don't really have like a square footage, but a facility that can hold that many people, and just have the top tier school in Grand Prairie,
Hmm.
and then in my surrounding area. I mean, I'm close to like Irving, North Arlington.
Great area.
Yeah, it's a good area, and it's not saturated, in my opinion, with gyms yet compared to other little areas of the DFW, and just help people in my community, and like with the
Bring that
kids,
to the
bring that. And
community.
there is jujitsu gyms there, and there's not, they do have a good community, but
Bring your touch
my
to it.
touch exactly.
And more options too, because especially if there's not one close, or close within, if it's not very saturated yet with gyms, that just makes it easier for people that are local to have a more of a local
Yeah,
gym.
exactly. And this different way of doing things, I just feel like it breaks barriers of, like I said earlier, of I'm the all-knowing guy, and
Hmm.
it's gonna be enticing to a lot of people, I think. And so that's my
Yeah.
goal. Have a really nice state-of-the-art gym. You know, cleanliness is huge on like when we get it. That's what I want to help us stand apart. I haven't been to my other competitors' gyms, so I don't want. I'm not speaking on what they're like,
Right.
but
This is just what
this
you
just is what
want.
I want. Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, I want weight equipment, so you kind of have all in one uh,
Area.
area,
Yeah.
and Yeah, I personally only want to focus on jujitsu. My brother, I think, mentioned he might have like MMA striking program, but I'll let him take charge of that. But for me, it's just strictly jujitsu.
Yeah, and that's what's beautiful about like once you have a platform and a place and a location, and then once things are running, then then you can start adding value to different services that you can offer to your clients
Hmm.
or your athletes.
And I guess part of my vision too is I want to have, with me and my brother, we want to have reins of the business, but also I want it to get to the point where it can run smoothly without us having to be there. A small business is going to you have to be heavily involved. So obviously I can't step away completely, but I want to be able to, if you're going to help me coach or be a coach at my gym, we have to be in alignment with this methodology, but it will give you the ability to design a class. I just kind of give you the details of how I would like the class to be ran as far as this methodology, and then design it yourself if you're a
Mm,
coach. And so I don't have to be there. Hey, they're not doing step two. Why aren't they doing step two? I know I went back to step two, but whatever, step
right.
four,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
They're not doing this step.
Right.
This gives the ability of the person to kind of design something along the line. If maybe we're on a certain topic of back take,
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna design a game, and then I can give constructive feedback, and after time they're gonna get it. So the
Yeah.
front desk, just everything kind of I want it run like a smooth ship eventually,
Yeah,
and
automate as much as you can
yes,
so that you can focus on the things that actually require hands-on.
yes, exactly, and then eventually. Back to the entrepreneurial thing, I can diversify my income eventually. So
Right.
right now I have a full-time job, so I'm gonna have to balance that, then eventually transition to full-time jujitsu, and then eventually, jujitsu is always gonna be there, but branch off to
Just yeah, invest,
invest, real
diversify your
estate, yeah,
portfolio
all kinds of things. Exactly.
for sure
So that's the goal, using what jujitsu offers
as a
as a
vehicle.
vehicle. Yeah.
Yes, I like that, and I think that's a great goal because sometimes I was even just having a conversation with my brother. He's a senior in high school. And he has different ideas about what to do, and some ideas are completely different. Like one idea is completely opposite from a different one, and so what I was telling him, and it just kind of reminds me, like right now, it's like I'm like there's endless great options, especially after high school. There's endless great options, so it's not about what is the best option.
Mhm.
It's about figuring out what it is that you want to do so that you can set a goal and then you have a direction to work towards, because when you don't have a direction, everything seems to be like a good idea,
Yeah.
right? And they could all be a good idea, but what does it matter if it's not what you want ultimately? And I think like I love hearing, where you want to go with your gym and stuff, because I think the biggest thing is that you have a direction of you're in the game. Like this is the game and you know the goal,
Yeah. And,
right?
and I'm lucky to have found jujitsu at the age I did, because
Hmm.
I was kind of starting my career field, so I knew like, okay, I'm an aviation guy, but at the end of the day, jujitsu has always been that stable thing for me, and so
Mm,
I never had to find my. I'm lucky I found my thing, and
yes.
and I'm really blessed. Some people, and I do tell people this. I'm like, look, I do jujitsu and it's my thing. But if I'm interested in a topic, I'll dive deep. And sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't. But try try different things, and then you
Hmm.
might find your passion. But if you just kind of like hopeful wishing kind of attitude, then you'll never know. If it's like, I want to try that salsa class, but nah. Hey, you might be really good at salsa. You might love it. You might not be good at it, but you might love it, and
Right.
it will bleed into your life, like
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I just happened to find jujitsu, but I also throughout my jujitsu career, I found other little passions that aren't I'm not necessarily monetizing, but I'm still passionate about. Like, I love working out with kettlebells. Maybe eventually I can monetize it, but I love kettlebells. I like um, planting like plants and stuff like that.
Mm.
Like, so if I never tried it,
You would have
I would
known
have known. So I do tell people like try different things. Like if you want to do photography or just
anything.
anything, just go for it.
Yeah.
And
Jim Ron said, if the feeling is strong and the fire is there, do it.
yeah.
That's the
You
moment.
sounded like him. I could hear his voice in my head when you said it like that.
So,
That was good.
and I think about that sometimes when I have like thoughts or ideas and they feel really strong. At least I write them down now. And so maybe I have too many written down now.
It's all right. Sometimes you got to
Yeah.
put them on paper. My mom has and I mean a lot of these different like public speakers I've listened to, and I've journaled different things, and at the time they look silly, or not silly, but they're just on paper, and I can go back a few years and like, oh wow, like I wrote this down at
Mhm.
like
It hits
yeah,
different.
his different. Yeah,
Yeah.
like my daughter, her name's Maxine. We were thinking of different names, and so I wrote down Maxine Vasquez. Like, how does that look on paper? And then her middle name her name's Maxine Lola Vasquez, but it was a different middle name on the paper, but this was written prior to her being born, and it's just in a journal at work that I
Mm.
write part numbers and stuff. And as I flip through it and I look at it as the years go on, I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like I had her name written down, or
Yeah.
just different topics like
Yeah,
that
for sure.
that I've written down that like, oh, this is cool. Things like that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. With your gym, how can people find you if they're interested in checking it out?
So we are on Facebook, Vasquez Jiu-Jitsu. Just type that in on Facebook, and then on Instagram, we are Vasquez Jiu-Jitsu __. So two underscores. And probably by the time this is published, or if whoever's watching this finds it down the line, we will have a website. Currently, as of today, we don't, but it's being built. It's going to be vasquezbjj.com.
Okay. Okay, very nice.
So yeah, all,
That
all three sources, and we have a Google page as well, Vasquez Jiu-Jitsu.
and you're currently located where?
We are in my garage still, currently 1321 Halifax Drive, Grand Prairie, Texas, and we are for sure going to stay in that North Grand Prairie
Area.
area, 75050, like zip code area. So once we're out of there, we will still be within a 5 to 10 mile radius of my house.
Very nice, very nice. And so any last thoughts or comments, or any events or anything coming up that you may want to share with us,
Mm, just like I
or your
said,
promotions? What is your current promotion? Is there any promotions you're
we're
running?
doing our phase 2 founders deal right now. So uh take advantage of that. It's for the next 10 people. It's $80 a month. Just because we're so new, we're in the garage. So I mean, that's a steal. It's a steal. That's for unlimited classes. Because as we progress and our classes grow, th- you're going to be grandfathered in, but those prices are going to go away. So take advantage of that.
Steal,
It's a steal. It's a
definitely.
steal.
Even if it's like, hey, I just want to lose weight, like that's a steal.
Yes, definitely. And like, even if you can only train once a week for now,
Mm-hmm.
when our class availability is to a lot more, or we increase our availability, you're locked in at a steal. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
and if these people were decide to quit and you come back, you're gonna have to pay the new price. So it's just like get locked in now.
Yes.
Um,
And
eh,
it's through, a year, 11 years of
yep.
training,
Mm-hmm.
black belt under Alvarez Jiu-Jitsu, who has such, just a great resume
Exactly.
alone.
Mm-hmm.
So you definitely had great schooling.
Oh yeah. I mean, we come from a great lineage. If you're into that, it's a big thing in jiu-jitsu. Our lineage is
It's up
it's
there.
up there. We got,
Yeah.
Coach Alvarez, and then from there we have Bruno Bastos, and man, those are two of the best guys in the world. And so
Lead BJJ.
lead
Yeah.
BJJ. So my brother's a four-stripe brown belt right now, but he's right there at black belt. So,
Yes.
two black belts leading the charge.
Definitely in
Yep.
great hands. Great
Hmm.
hands.
So,
And so every episode, I typically end it with two questions. The first question is, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received? And these are deep, so take your time.
yeah.
Fine.
I guess the best piece of advice is it's like not verbatim, but it's like the it's like what we were saying. If you accept that things are hard, and you accept that you're gonna fall, and if you can just pick yourself back up and keep moving forward, I think it makes this journey on this world easier.
Mm,
So accept the hard and the difficulties, and use it to shape you into a stronger person. And like I said, it's not verbatim, but I've taken that from like my mom, uh, Coach Alvarez. Let's throw David Goggins in. Like,
mm-hmm.
accept the suck. Um, use it to become a better person, and it's okay to fail. And I think if you practice that belief, life can be a little easier to navigate with whatever you decide to
Mm,
do. You want to learn the guitar, all the way to you're battling, you know, an illness, right? There's certain things that are out of our control, and then there's things we can't control, our attitude and how we
mm.
how we uh
How we
how we
approach
approach things.
things.
And
Yes.
so like that to me, I think is a big takeaway. So as long as you have a good positive attitude, and there's certain things that are out of our control, but we can control how we think and how we you know process things.
Mm-hmm.
um
Yeah.
you can use that in with whatever you decide to do.
Definitely, definitely agreed. And the second question is, what is your personal definition of happiness? Because everybody sees happiness, or happiness means different things to them. They're happy in different scenarios or areas, or different things make them happy. What is your definition of happiness?
I think I feel most happy when I am grateful for the things that are in my life. So like when I can root myself in a place of gratitude, a lot of the little headaches that I deal with, I'm happy. Like, and so I'll give an example how I use gratitude and it makes me happy. Like at work, I'm sure everybody has those coworkers that are always complaining, just nagging, and they're miserable. And
Mm-hmm.
there's sometimes I'm walking into work a little grumpy, a little like, "Ugh, I had to wake up early, I have to deal with." And then I'm like, okay, I'm grateful, and I always say it in my head, like, "Thank you, Lockheed, for providing a roof over my head. Thank you, Lockheed, for giving me the ability to provide for my family. Thank you, Lockheed, for uh having the ability to buy a car." And then I'm like, all right, it's cool. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy. Same thing with jujitsu. There's sometimes I'm in a rough patch. We go through rough patches in jujitsu. I'm like, man, I'm just so happy to and thankful that I found jujitsu and like I have the ability to train and just I mean some people like you can even go as far as some people have existential crisis like oh I'm scared to die yada yada and that
Hmm.
freaks people out and they go through little depression phases or something and I'm like okay that's out of our control back to the first question. And I start to root myself and like man the sun is shining even if it's not shining if this thunderstorm is really cool or like I like
Yes.
i'm I'm here in this and not everyone is in this in the best place but if you can just find little wins little things that you can be grateful for it starts to take you out of that funk and um it can make you a happier person.
Agreed.
So that's how to what me happiness is gratitude. We're really some people have unfortunate circumstances, but they either use that and then they grow from it or they feel sorry for
Or
themselves or
crutches them.
crutches
Yeah.
them. And but when you feel gratitude like okay I'm alive like and I know it's cheesy to some people like yeah okay we're alive but no like if you really think about it like we're only here for a little blink, like compared to the long time that Earth has been here. We got a little,
Hmm.
it's like a blink. And so it's
Hmm.
like really, we have a lot of things to be grateful for, like art, music. Like, man,
So
you can
much.
just listen to music and feel good. And it's like, wow, I'm grateful. Like, man, I'm born during a time that we have AirPods and like
Yes.
s-
AC,
AC, like,
heater, and
um, you know,
vehicles.
ergonomic shoes. Like I'm grateful for my shoes today because like my feet don't hurt that much, and like just little things like that kind of make me a happier person. I'm not immune to it. I have my days,
As we all.
um,
Right.
but uh, I think that helps. I mean, like especially with a lot of this
Ground
mental
you.
health stuff that's going on.
Hmm.
That not that people are lying. I just feel like if we can root ourselves in gratitude it could help a lot of people. Not everybody, but a
Yes.
lot of people.
Agreed. Agreed because it kind of just pauses everything and starts making you, it kind of forces you to see what you have versus just seeing what you don't have.
Mhm. And it's not so much materialistic
No,
things
to everything.
because
Yes.
there's some wealthy people that are still miserable.
100%.
And so you could have very like I've seen some homeless people that are like really happy. Not all of them. I'm not saying let's be homeless, but I'm sure they're in a state of
Yes.
maybe not gratitude, but present. Like I'm just chilling, man. I don't- you know I'm so um and it's not to add to that. It's not like a automatic fix. Like I'm grateful, I'm happy now. It's like it's a
Yeah.
daily practice.
Yes,
It's a
it's the thought process. It's how you ground yourself to like to what's going on to the present, how you ground yourself to the present moment
yep.
and just puts things into perspective and realize that that huge thunderstorm that maybe was going through your head, it's not so bad as you thought maybe it was.
Exactly. And
Um
so yeah,
yeah, I love
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So well, we did it.
Yeah.
I appreciate you spending your time here with us and sharing us more about, your journey in jiu-jitsu and your gym and, what you plan to do with it. I think it helps a lot kind of just for anybody that listens, it helps understand even just what jiu-jitsu is
Yeah. Hopefully
more.
I help some people understand what jujitsu is and thank you for allowing me to talk about this and like sometimes like there's things in my head I don't always put into words and so I
Mhm.
like this format because it helps me it's like a journal like a digital journal as well like I can look back
Right.
10 years from now and be like look at that kid there talking about that stuff or
You know,
whatever.
for sure. And, I, of course, it's not the goal with the podcast, but I think that's something really cool to think about. It's like we're kind of capturing the stages where we're at now. And I always think it's going to be so much fun to look back
Mm-hmm.
and see those moments, not just, and even for me to look back and, because, most, if not, I think all the people nowadays, and especially the people that have sat on your chair, have social media. So in some sense, we're going to be connected through social media
Mm-hmm.
and see the growth. So that is, I think, pretty cool.
Yeah, and hopefully, you guys can have me back, a few years down the line where and we're in a new space of like business and
And
with
talk
my
about
brother.
that
Yeah,
journey
exactly.
then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, yeah, thank you very much.
of
So this was cool.
course.
Hmm.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. All right, everyone. Well, follow Vasquez Jiu-Jitsu. Check it out. Give it a try. Just check out what they're doing and sign up. Why not? It's only $80 for now.
Yep, for
Take
now.
advantage.
Yes.
All right. Till next one. And thank you.
Thank you.